the country and name his cabinet. Just how possible is it for him to manage the 50% promise that he gave to the women? That is one of the things that we'll be looking at. Is there going to be space for Railah's men? As many would say, that is not expected. These are the key things that we'll be discussing this morning. Also, as we follow up on the events of how members of parliament are bracing themselves to go and hit the house. And most importantly, this talk of the majority and minority, that Solomonic wisdom awaited for from this end of the Speaker of the House, that especially the National Assembly, that is Speaker Moses Wetangula, as he assures members of Parliament that their car allowances, their mileage and reimbursements will be intact. These are some of the things that we'll be looking at this morning as we welcome you, and we all set our eyes on the new administration to see whether there's going to be that aspect of change that Kenyans have yearned for already. We've started feeling this change by, first of all, experiencing the high cost of living that is not different. Perhaps it's getting worse, and Kenyans are asking just why. Well, the government then maintains that, there has to be a little bit of tough times for Kenyans to experience until that moment when they'll be able to manage the situation. We await to see whether indeed the Kenya Kwanza or the UDA government then will manage to accord this or accord us this relief. Welcome on board. It's good to have you. Also, later on, we'll be speaking to some of you that is on the Baraza, and most importantly, engaging our correspondents across the different parts of the country, as well as speaking to you on phone to hear what you have to say about your expectations. This also as we commemorate that end of an era, as the Queen, who died on September the 8th, then of course the longest reigning monarch in British history, is then laid to rest, as leaders and the world across then commemorate this moment and they join to bid the Queen farewell. Of course, that is one of the key things that we discussed this morning, and not forgetting on the last segment where we'll be talking about how best we can make sure that we scale small businesses online. This is also a very important conversation, especially at this point when the government confirms and affirms to us that they are in that moment of the bottom up, making sure that the SMEs are able to be given a conducive environment to conduct a business. Welcome on board. My name is Alelah, and this is Morning Café, and right here on TV 47, it's always good having you. And so this Tuesday morning, we'll be doing the best of the best to make sure that we bring you the best of content all the way to 9:30 a.m. Very important that you interact with us. The hashtag is Morning Café at Linda_Alelah TV 47 KE. I get to sample some of your comments as I continue with this very broadcast. Once again, we always take a look at what the papers are all about, and importantly, crossing over to see some of the stories that have been prepared by my team. And so as that is being also worked on, allow us to briefly take a look at the papers, and we'll definitely be getting to join in with that conversation that is later on, alongside the gentlemen that also will be gracing this set this morning. And we expecting Wakili Ndegwanjiru as well as engineer Alex Mwathi for a very, very important conversation. So make sure that you keep it right here as we also await for this gentleman to help us decipher on this. Away from Wakili and engineer, we'll definitely also be expecting party leader for Justice and Freedom Party, that is Honorable Justice Juma. Now, the Daily Nation this morning, it's technically about the end of an era, and so there's nothing much for me to definitely look at. That is as to the front pages of this morning, end of an era. Last rites, as Britain says farewell to Queen Elizabeth II at a historic state funeral attended by world leaders, among them William Ruto, as a country much changed since the Queen's coronation in 1953, digs deep into its centuries of tradition to honor the only monarch most of its citizens have ever known. This is captured on page 2 and 3 of the Daily Nation. Let's see what the Standard newspaper details this morning as pertaining to the stories that have been captured on the front page as well. That is the biggest story, perhaps the only one, aside from this one, of what then the Kenya Kwanza government would be all about. Farewell like no other. Royal send-off it was, and the British aristocrats showcased the best of their culture and rituals as the world bade goodbye to the longest-serving monarch, Queen Elizabeth II. With billions watching the ceremony around the world, the power play, color and honor accorded to the Queen was one of a kind. That was captured on page 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12 of the Standard newspaper. And Gachagua says we will probe state capture. In a candid interview, the deputy president says that the economy is on its knees because individuals used state machinery to enrich themselves at the expense of the common wananchi, and therefore we'll as well be looking at that and so much more. Remember, the main story of the day is about the Kenya Kwanza government, and so we do not run away from the very same, as we also look at also how Senate then is preparing itself to manage and oversee the aspect of devolution, how different quarters, the 48 governments or 47 counties as well, are bracing themselves to make sure that they manage their very own activities. And so that clearly tells you there's really nothing much for us to look at on the papers this morning, aside from the details and just looking at the life of the Queen and the numerous other matters that have been captured there. And so as we begin this morning, we'll be looking at all this and get to understand why then this story has been accorded all the pages. Beautiful pictures to see on that historic send-off. World leaders equally joined Britain at the state funeral to mourn the monarch. Also, from black hearts to brooches, it was a dazzling affair at the funeral, as captured right there. And also they're talking about the Queen's grand final journey to resting place. And I mean, just showcasing how this, happened right from the word go and up until yesterday. And equally, speaking of the piper who woke Queen up every morning, played for her final rest as well. And also speaking of figures and facts about the Queen's funeral, and Queen's reignites the call for apology to Africa for colonization as well. Remember, most of the African leaders have called upon the British monarch to look into this, and most importantly also, as they speak of making the best of this relationship, they also remind us of the bad times, the bad experiences, and not forgetting the good ones, and of course calling upon for that aspect of reconciliation also, as we witnessed a majority of leaders as well, that is the African presidents, joining in this very crucial moment. President Ruto as well graced the occasions, and of course he says we will miss the cordial ties she had with Kenya. And on the other side, pictures of the presidents, of the country's former presidents with the Queen. That is President Kenyatta as well as President Moi, as captured right here. That is on page 10 and 11 of the Standard newspaper as well. The finally at rest, red roses from Royal Garden also accompanied the Queen. And this indeed are the stories that we look at. Also not forgetting this one that I had mentioned earlier on, as pertaining to the meeting that members of Parliament are having to make sure that at least they're all set and all understanding what their assignment will be all about. A majority of them who are joining the House for the very first time and also being initiated into the House. The National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula has indeed promised the lawmakers a raft of changes that will make sure that, they push the business of the House according to the direction that is expected. The EACC seeks to freeze on power farm both assets, as well on the question of graft and how then this would be addressed. And the pain at the pump as well is one of the key things that we'll be talking about as Kenyans continue to reel from the tough economic times, and equally the petrol prices that are becoming a problem. And so this we'll be looking at, and we welcome you to be part and parcel of the conversation. As I have told you, The hashtag again is Morning Café at Linda_Alelah and as TV47KE. Allow us to take a quick short break and then we come back with the news stories of the day.
TV47, the home of untold stories.
Wale mademu sema mimi ni sapiosexual. Unajua inamaanisha nini?
Disability is not only limited to physical disorder but also mental issue. From depression,
I was under depression for like 2 years.
Bipolar
Disorder is a mood disorder.
And even suicidal thoughts.
When I was just about to hang myself, a certain voice just talked to me, and I believe that was God. I tried suicide more than 6 times.
Beyond the Limit has gone beyond its limit to find answers so as to help everyone go through life with ease. Join Muthoni Maina every Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Starting this September at 8:30 p.m. on Tuesday, The Realtor brings it all to perspective. We identify a property, discuss and demonstrate the journey towards ownership.
Professionals who have integrity, and from their catalog you can easily read that these are professionals who are able to deliver.
Everywhere you go, you have to up your games. You have to go with the trends.
Not forgetting the margins as well as the risks.
And desperate pastelates have expressed their disappointment as their livestock die in thousands. And Rinkilemi reports.
A landscape of sand, trails of carcasses and a visibly barren land with barely little coverage of plants is what welcomes you to Kajiado County. Thousands of families continue to experience the lethal effects of drought that continue to ravage parts of the county. The situation now affecting the already packed school calendar, with statistics showing that more than 400 pupils from Kajiado South Sub-County are out of school for lack of food. Pastoralists in Kajiado now counting losses as their livestock, which is their main source of livelihood, die in large numbers. A bale of grass now retailing at 300 shillings in major markets in Kajiado, with a mature skinny cow currently fetching less than 5,000 shillings.
Ng'ombe anakuwa ngoigoi sana, hata mbuzi anakuwa kiangazi na sidi kabisa. Ng'ombe anakufa, sokoni anakufa ya ng'ombe, hata sokoni ya mbuzi anakufa, anakuwa ile tabu kabisa.
According to a recent survey, at least 450,000 heads of cattle valued at approximately 13.6 billion shillings are on the verge of dying, with 75% of wildlife affected and dying of hunger.
Kiangazi imetulemea na tunanunua nyasi hapa. Nyasi moja hapa tunauziwa shilingi 300 na ng'ombe yenyewe haitoi pesa kwa sababu ng'ombe moja hapo mbele tulikuwa tunauza ng'ombe kwa shilingi 3,000 ili ukileta sokoni. Saa hii tunauza shilingi 1,000 na hata ng'ombe yenyewe wameweza kuisha, wameangamia na kiangazi.
Residents are now pleading with the government to intervene and to introduce feeding programs in the county so as to cushion those in the worst affected areas. Andrina Kilemi, TV47.
The members of the County Assembly are this week expected to be sworn in ahead of the commencement of the County Assembly sittings. The swearing in or exercise will be presided by the election of the leadership of the houses. And as Micah Gongo reports, most of the county assemblies have finalized preparations for the first sitting as well as a speaker's election.
The standing orders for County Assembly states that there will only be 2 items in the order paper in the first sitting: the election of the speakers and swearing in of all members. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission IEBC last week gazetted all the 1,443 elected MCAs in the August 9th general election, paving way for their swearing-in exercise. In Kiambu County, MCA's swearing-in ceremony preparation is on the final stage, where all members of the county assembly will go through orientation Tuesday, awaiting taking oath of office on Wednesday. Led by Ntaya Ward MCA Mogaboyo, members said after taking oath of office, they will elect the Speaker of the Assembly, who will be independent-minded and visionable person who will bring harmony in the Assembly.
Yule mtu atatumanage kupatia ile kiti, awe ni mtu ako na uadilifu, ni mtu ako na maono, na ya muhimu awe ni mtu atajitolea kwa mhanga usiku na mchana kufanyia wananchi wa Kiambu kazi.
Sisi tumeongea na tumesikizana ya kwamba hatutachaguliwa speaker na mtu yeyote, hata kama ni kutoka kwa president. Sisi wenyewe tuko na haki, tuko na huru ya kuchagua speaker ambayo mwenye atatupendeza.
Tunatarajia tutachagua speaker ambaye atakuwa speaker huru, speaker ambaye ataweza kufanya kazi pamoja nasi kama wajumbe, na pia ataweza kufanya kazi pamoja na governor.
Kiambu County has a total of 60 MCAs elected and 26 nominated. 9 candidates have been cleared by the office of the Kiambu County Clerk to contest for the Speaker seat to replace the current Speaker, Stephen Disho.
But the members can take as much
Meru County's newly elected and nominated members of the County Assembly were taken through an orientation at the County Assembly building Monday, ahead of their swearing-in on Wednesday this week. The exercise involved verification of the members against the gazettement list and collation of the members' biodata.
Basically, we have the verification of their names. For the elected members, we are verifying against the IEBC certificate. For the nomination members, nominated members, we are verifying against the list, the gazetted list with the identity cards.
What we have said or agreed as members is that we shall have time to evaluate ourselves and to see the kind of a speaker that we want. The speaker who is not influenced by external pressures, external entities that may have some say in the county assembly.
The new members were later in the afternoon taken through the chamber operations by officers of the House to familiarize with the parliamentary procedures. The third assembly will have a total membership of 69 members. 45 MCAs were elected in the August 9th general election, while 24 were nominated by various political parties to represent various interests in the county assembly. The third assembly is set to convene for the first sitting on Wednesday this week, following a notification by Meru Governor Kawera Mwangaza. Mike Kagwongo, TV 47.
And so 5 people have died after consuming illegal brew in Isiolo, Kipsing and Oldonyiro areas, and according to the acting chief health officer in Isiolo County, Peter Ngeshu, the 5 among them women are said to have consumed a product that contains high levels of ethanol. 3 more people have been admitted at Isiolo Referral Hospital with side problems complaints.
The illegal brew is said to have been bought at Lodokwe Market at the border of Isiolo and Laikipia counties by a woman believed to be part of a network dealing with the illegal business. The named woman is said to be one of the casualties after consuming the product.
Hiyo Lodokwe Market, wakati watu wetu walienda huko kufanya biashara, wengine walipeleka zile vitu walikuwa wanauza, na wakati wa kutoka huko wakaweza kununua hii pombe, na wakati ilipelekwa wa kwanza wakati walifika Odonyiro, yule kulikuwa mwanamke ambaye alikuwa amebeba hiyo pombe, na yeye mwenyewe hata akatumia na akaweza kutuacha.
According to the acting chief health officer in Isiolo County, Peter Ngeshu, the 3 persons who were hospitalized at Isiolo County Referral Hospital are in a stable condition but have complaints of eyesight problems.
Hii tuko na 3 ambao wako kwa hospitali, but the others is stable condition, although wana complain hawaoni vizuri, but we hope wataweza kuendelea vizuri.
Isiolo County Governor Abdi Guyo has issued a directive to health surveillance teams in partnership with the police to be on high alert and nab the illegal business whilst actively educating the public on the dangers of illegal brew consumption.
Kuanzia wakati huu mpaka wakati ambao tutafika, tutaeneza jambo mbili. La kwanza, tutashikana na watu wa polisi, tufanye nini ambao hii kitu imetoka wapi. La pili, tukipata hiyo product mali imetoka, tutawasiliana na jirani yetu kama Samburu, director anaitwa Agostino, nimeongea na yeye, tujue kwamba imetoka wapi na manufacturer iko wapi.
Meanwhile, bar owners in Kirinyaga County are now opposed to plans by the Kenya Revenue Authority to increase excise duty by 6.3% on alcohol, saying the plan is likely to push their customers into illicit poisonous brews.
This thing of adding taxes on us, it is going to affect us in so many ways, and especially because once the price goes high, mulevi ni ule. They'll still have other options of taking alcohol. They'll go for cheaper drinks, they'll go for changa and other drinks. So it will even affect our community and even our youths because they will not afford the expensive beer and other things that we have in the industry.
The move is slated to be implemented by 1st October this year. Zainab Mohammed, T47.
Now, the Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula, has revealed talks with the Salary and Remuneration Commission are going on to see that the Commission rescinds its earlier decision that had scrapped key allowances to the members of the 13th Parliament. And speaking when he opened the week-long induction workshop in Nairobi, Wetangula announced he is in talks with SRC, as Mwathi William reports.
Next 5 days.
Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula, officially kickstarted the one-week-long induction exercise that brought together both elected and nominated members of the National Assembly. It is at the session the Speaker revealed to members of Parliament that he is leading talks with the Salary and Remuneration Commission to, among other things, rescind its earlier decision that sliced key allowance of members of the 13th Parliament. The Lynn Mengich-led SRC Commission had abolished sitting allowances for the 13th Parliament, something that has caused a standoff between the Commission and the lawmakers who have demanded that it be reversed.
We live incrementally. We don't live by reduction. Nobody in their right frame of mind will interfere with your car allowances, with your mileage reimbursement, and with your mortgage and everything else that you have been having, because that is your entitlement.
Moses Wetangula took the moment while at the podium to reiterate to the members that he will fairly serve the 13th Parliament, albeit the different factions of political camps constituting the august house.
The office of Mr. Speaker is open for anybody and everybody. Don't hesitate that because you come from a different political formation, I am here to serve each one of you equally. And doing so, I will.
On her part, Gladys Sholei, the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, called on the members of Parliament to diligently discharge their roles as expected by the electorates.
Unfortunately, most MPs wait until the last year of their term in Parliament to start doing what they call listening to the ground. Nasikiza ground. Start listening now to the people you represent, or else you will live to regret.
The forum, which involves taking the legislators through the operations and procedures of the House, geared towards equipping them with the tools to effectively execute their mandate, saw the Governor Central Bank of Kenya, Patrick Njoroge, taking through the legislators on their role on Kenya's economy.
We need to work together, not just the people in this room, but I think also others, the entire, all arms of government, let's put all arms and all elements in government.
However, Chief Justice Martha Koome, expected to deliver a keynote speech, skipped the event and was represented by the Court of Appeal Judge Daniel Musinga. A section of lawmakers aligned to the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition had threatened to walk out of the event, expressing dissatisfaction with the Supreme Court ruling on the presidential election petition. The MPs accused a 7-judge bench led by Koome of bias in the judgment that upheld the election of Kenya Kwanza Alliance leader William Ruto as Kenya's 5th president. Mwathi William, TV 47.
And members of parliament allied to the Kenya Kwanza and Azimio coalitions clashed on the sidelines of the ongoing induction workshop for the 13th parliament, on which coalition who has the numbers to form the majority side in the National Assembly. And Kenya Kwanza dismissed Azimio's claim to the slot, saying that Azimio as a coalition party never fielded a parliamentary candidate, a claim Azimio disputes, as Apollo Kamau reports.
Ahead of the much-awaited determination on which coalition or political party has the numbers to claim the majority leader slot in the National Assembly, members of the National Assembly on a week-long induction workshop here in Nairobi dug in on who has the numbers, with majority leaders designate Kimani Ichung'wah of Kenya Kwanza and Opiyo Wandayi of the Azimio la Umoja making a case before the Speaker's ruling.
The question of Azimio being the majority coalition in the National Assembly is already settled by the Constitution, the statutes, and the standing orders. And that anybody who is dissatisfied with that position can only do the most logical thing, which is to seek redress in court.
Ask Azimio, are they a coalition of political parties or are they a political party? Do they have the highest number of seats? Do they even have a member of parliament under Azimio? Remember, they were unable to field candidates under Azimio because they couldn't even agree on zoning.
At the heart of the majority dispute is whether Azimio as a political party fielded any parliamentary candidates and whether the Speaker will recognize the coalitions or individual political parties.
Azimio was formed using Section 7 of Subsection 7 of the Political Parties Act as a political party, and a registration certificate was given to it by the registrar. So Azimio is a party. But Azimio did not field any candidate apart from the presidential.
I've heard some people argue that now we just deal with political parties, we talk of UDA, we talk of ODM. That's not the spirit of the law. It's not even the letter of the law. You know, we have already formed, you can only go to party if there are no coalition of parties.
The question is, which party sponsored you in parliament? That's the only question the Speaker will be happy to answer. Which party sponsored you in parliament? And from the numbers, as you can see them around, the party with the highest members in parliament is a party called UDA. And the second party which follows UDA is called ODM.
Three political parties, Maendeleo Chapchap, PA and UDM, having already moved to court on their exit from the Azimio coalition, using Article 36 of the Constitution on the right of political association, have only served to complicate matters for Azimio after joining Kenya Kwanza.
The Azimio is a coalition that is built on quicksand. They are instruments of state and instruments of criminal justice that were used to coerce people into that coalition, and that is why you saw it fall apart immediately after the election, and it gave Kenya Kwanza the majority that it enjoys, both in the upper house, which is the National Assembly, and even in the Senate.
Every single member has a right to declare his stand in the floor of the house, and where he believes that he can also take his vote. And as for things stand, how comes if you cannot be able to get the Speaker's vote, how can you claim the majority? As simple as that. The numbers were beaten by over 85 number. Then you claim the majority.
The lingo numbers are with Azimio. If you go to IMBC, write to political parties, to Anne, she will give you the numbers. Azimio has 174 members, 172 members. Kenya Kwanza has 165. Based on the coalition agreement which was signed pre-election.
Despite the issue being a major contention on the first day of this induction workshop, only the Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula, can put the matter to rest when the House next sits. Apollo Kamau, TV47 in Nairobi.
And as the world followed the funeral of Queen Elizabeth, the grandchildren of Koitalel Arap Samoei, who was the leader of the Nandi community, together with those of his 23 ministers who were killed 117 years ago were demanding for justice from the British government. The families want the British government to compensate them, as Chichi Josephine reports.
The family of Koitalel Arab Samoa is now demanding compensation of 150 billion shillings by the British government for the suffering and the damage they underwent in the hands of the colonists 117 years ago.
We therefore demand as follows. 1. A public apology from the British government to the community and affected families. 2. A total of Kenya shillings 150 billion as compensation for the losses incurred from the confiscated property. And 3. The immediate return of Koitalel Samoa head / skull so that the family and the community can enjoy peace.
Addressing journalists at the Koitalel Samoa Museum Hall in Nandi Hills, the grandchildren have complained of being neglected by the British and Kenyan governments, despite fighting for compensation for many decades now.
It has been pain through all the years. We have come here today because people are celebrating the Queen. We are not sure whether to celebrate her life because we did not hear a statement from her condemning what her grandfather did and also what they did.
They now claim to have lost more than 16,000 cows, 36,000 goats and sheep. They also lamented over loss of lives of more than 5,000 people, as others were injured and raped by the British soldiers.
The cattle that were confiscated were more than 2,000 that were taken. And even the sheep and goats, all of them are worth around 3 billion. When we quantify.
Tulivamiwa, tukachukuliwa kila kitu, hata nyumba ilichomwa na kila kitu. Na iliendelea hivyo hivyo. Na tusijui sasa kitu gani ilikuwa inatakika kwa uvamizi kutoka Uingereza mpaka Nandi hapa ilikuwa kitu gani?
1,000. Chichi Josephine, TV 47.
In the same breath, British Army training units in Kenya joined the rest of the world in bidding farewell to Queen Elizabeth in a prayer service held concurrently to the grand state funeral held at Westminster Abbey in central London. The service that was held in memory of the late Queen at Mwathi Barracks in Nanyuki under the stewardship of Commander Colonel Duncan Mann gave the soldiers a chance to conduct prayers for the country and send messages of condolences.
Speaking during the service, Commander Colonel Duncan Mann emphasized on the rich history of the Commonwealth countries and the United Kingdom, noting that the late Queen was a respected leader who left a mark during her reign. The commander also stated fondly the Queen's rich history with Kenya, where she's remembered to have gone up a tree a princess and come down a queen.
So this event today is linked into the ones back in the UK. We clearly can't be able to participate in the service today in London, but what we also did have is a great opportunity to show the connection between Her Majesty the Queen and Kenya. It's a place that was very dear to her heart, and of course this is the place where she first became the Queen. So it's important for us to be able to come on parade and show our respects, but also we will be able to come together as a community and watch the service in the London when it will be streamed later on this afternoon.
On Saturday, Queen Elizabeth II was also eulogized in a memorial service held at the SEK St. Philip's Church, Narumoru in Nyeri County. She attended a church service at the Anglican Church in Narumoru during her visit in 1952, a day before she became queen, following the death of King George VI, who died on February 6, 1952. According to KDF retired General Waweru, the rich history between Kenya and UK has played a key role in the two countries' collaboration in various sectors, such as military training that has seen military development in both countries.
She was a symbol to all of us, a symbol not only for the Commonwealth, but also to many of us who served in the military. And as you all know, she was quite elegant, she was non-controversial, she was a lady who believed in God, and all this is a testament of a great leader.
It was at Treetops Hotel in the Aberdare National Park in Nyeri, where she was informed that her father had died and ascended to the throne. In 2013, the government declared the church a national monument. Zainab Mohammed, T47.
And Queen Elizabeth II's remains were interred at the St. George's Chapel at Windsor Castle, and other royal family members buried at the chapel are the Queen's husband, mother, father and sister. And President William Ruto was among the leaders who attended the burial ceremony, as Sharon Baranga reports.
This world. In the name of God the Father Almighty, who created thee.
Hundreds of thousands of mourners turned up at the Westminster Abbey, the building in which the Queen was married and crowned, to bid farewell to Queen Elizabeth II. A funeral service was held at Westminster Abbey, where, in his sermon, the Archbishop of Canterbury said the late Queen touched a multitude of lives during her 70-year reign. The Queen's coffin was draped in the royal standard, and the imperial state crown was placed on top. The royal standard represents the sovereign and the UK. The sovereign's orb and the sceptre were also placed on top of the coffin. Hundreds of dignitaries attended the burial ceremony, including the Queen's former prime ministers, as well as Kenyan President William Ruto, US President Joe Biden, and French President Emmanuel Macron. Afterwards, a procession involving 3,000 military personnel carried her coffin through London, passing many of the capital's most famous landmarks. Huge crowds lined the long walk as a procession accompanying the state has made its way along the route.
And there'll be this.
And finally, the Queen Elizabeth's coffin arrived at Windsor Castle for a committal service at St. George's Chapel. Other royal family members buried at the chapel are the Queen's husband, mother, father and sister.
The Earl Marshal and the Lord Chamberlain precede the coffin up the steps in loving and devoted memory.
And for the first time, the Queen was separated from her crown jewels. The sceptre, crown and orb were removed from their place on her coffin by the crown jeweller. They will ultimately be returned to the Tower of London, but for now are passed to the Dean of Windsor, who places them carefully on the altar.
Side who we saw coming up the long walk.
The Queen's piper then played a lament to mark the solemn moment as the coffin was lowered inside her grave. The Queen died on 8th September 2022. Sharon Baranga, TV47.
Thank you, Sharon, for giving us the last story as well that forms the basis of our conversation this morning. But before we get to loop in the gentleman that will be joining us for the same, allow us to take a quick short break, and I will be coming with more.
You are watching TV47, the home of untold stories.
Do you want to have fun and learn? Well, here on Kids on the...
Disability is not only limited to physical disorder, but also mental issue. From depression.
I was under depression for like 2 years.
Bipolar.
Bipolar disorder is a mood disorder.
And even suicidal thoughts.
When I was just about to hang myself, a certain voice just talked to me, and I believe that was God. I tried suicide more than 6 times.
Beyond the Limit has gone beyond its limit to find answers so as to help everyone go through life with ease. Join Muthoni Maina every Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Starting this September at 8:30 p.m. on Tuesday, The Realtor brings it all to perspective. We identify a property, discuss and demonstrate the journey towards ownership.
professionals who have integrity, and from their catalog you can easily read that these are professionals who are able to deliver.
Everywhere you go, you have to up your games, you have to go with the trends.
Not forgetting the margins as well as the risks that come along.
The runaway prices of the land. We are saying that it's something that we can never go without mentioning. Any developer will not go without mentioning price of land.
Don't miss out. Do you want the latest news on farming? We've got the WikiLeaks for you. Get it? No? Well, okay. Every week, we give you insights on different farms, from crop farming to animal keeping.
They're very hardy insects, yeah? The larvae is a very hardy insect.
We look forward to having an optimum production in maybe about 5 years. Yes. Yeah.
So we plant every week and we harvest every week.
Join Violet Njoki every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. as we skooma the wiki.
It's not all the time you have to read your farm. Sometimes it's of benefit.
Starting this September at 8:30 p.m.
Hi and welcome to The Grind. My name is Violet Njoki.
We continue to provide the platform that aims to inform and educate on business-related matter. We are here to ask all the relevant questions on your behalf.
When it comes to a catering business, do you need licenses?
Yeah, a lot of it.
And inform you what is happening in the business arena. Be sure to stay tuned.
All week, you look forward to the weekend.
And we are here to help you make the most of it.
Catch me, Karen Karini, on Fridays.
And with me, Muthoni Maina, on the weekend.
Disability is not only limited to physical disorder, but also mental issue. From depression,
I was under depression for like 2 years.
bipolar,
Bipolar disorder is a mood disorder.
and even suicidal thoughts.
When I was just about to hang myself, a certain voice just talked to me, and I believe that was God. I tried suicide more than 6 times.
Beyond the Limit has gone beyond its limit to find answers so as to help everyone go through life with ease. Join Muthoni Maina every Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Starting this September at 8:30 p.m. on Tuesday, The Realtor brings it all to perspective. We identify a property, discuss and demonstrate the journey towards ownership.
Professionals who have integrity, and from their catalog you can easily read that these are professionals who are able to deliver.
Everywhere you go, you have to up your games, you have to go with the trends.
Not forgetting the margins as well as the risks that come along.
The runaway prices of the land. We are saying that it's something that we can never go without mentioning. Any developer will not go without mentioning price of land.
Don't miss out. Do you want the latest news on farming? We've got the WikiLeaks for you. Get it? No? Well, okay. Every week, we give you insights on different farms, from crop farming to animal keeping.
They're very hardy insects, yeah? The larvae is a very hardy insect.
We look forward to having an optimum production in maybe about 5 years. Yes. Yeah.
So we plant every week and we harvest every week.
Join Violet Njoki every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. as we skooma the wiki.
It's not all the time you have to read your farm. Sometimes it's of benefit.
Starting this September at 8:30 p.m.
Hi and welcome to The Grind. My name is Violet Njoki.
We continue to provide the platform that aims to inform and educate on business-related matter. We are here to ask all the relevant questions on your behalf.
When it comes to a catering business, do you need licenses?
Yeah, a lot of it.
And inform you what is happening in the business arena. Be sure to stay tuned.
All week, you look forward to the weekend.
And we are here to help you make the most of it.
Catch me, Karen Karini, on Fridays.
And with me, Mwathi Minor, on the weekend.
Disability is not only limited to physical disorder but also mental issue. From depression,
I was under depression for like 2 years.
bipolar,
Bipolar disorder is a mood disorder.
and even suicidal thoughts.
When I was just about to hang myself, a certain voice just talked to me, and I believe that was God. I tried suicide more than 6 times.
Beyond the Limit has gone beyond its limit to find answers so as to help everyone go through life with ease. Join Muthoni Maina every Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Starting this September at 8:30 p.m. on Tuesday, The Realtor brings it all to perspective. We identify a property, discuss and demonstrate the journey towards ownership.
Professionals who have integrity, and from their catalog you can easily read that these are professionals who are able to deliver.
Everywhere you go, you have to up your games, you have to go with the trends.
Not forgetting the margins as well as the risks that come along.
The runaway prices of the land. We are saying that it's something that we can never go without mentioning. Any developer will not go without mentioning price of land.
Don't miss out. Do you want the latest news on farming? We've got the WikiLeaks for you. Get it? No? Well, okay. Every week, we give you insights on different farms from crop farming to animal keeping.
They're very hardy insects, yeah? The larvae are very hardy insects.
We look forward to having an optimum production in maybe about 5 years. Yes. Yeah.
So we plant every week and we harvest every week.
Join Violet Njoki every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. as we skooma the wiki.
It's not all the time you have to read your farm. Sometimes it's of benefit.
Starting this September at 8:30 p.m.
Hi and welcome to The Grind. My name is Violet Njoki.
We continue to provide the platform that aims to inform and educate on business-related matter. We are here to ask all the relevant questions on your behalf.
When it comes to a catering business, do you need licenses?
Yeah, a lot of it.
And inform you what is happening in the business arena. Be sure to stay tuned.
All week, you look forward to the weekend. And we are here to help you make the most of it. Catch me, Karen Karini, on Fridays. And with me, Mwathi Minor, on the weekend.
Disability is not only limited to physical disorder but also mental issue. From depression,
I was under depression for like 2 years.
bipolar,
Bipolar disorder is a mood disorder.
and even suicidal thoughts.
When I was just about to hang myself, a certain voice just talked to me, and I believe that was God. I tried suicide more than 6 times.
Beyond the Limit has gone beyond its limit to find answers so as to help everyone go through life with ease. Join Mudhoni Maina every Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Starting this September at 8:30 p.m. on Tuesday, The Realtor brings it all to perspective. We identify a property, discuss and demonstrate the journey towards ownership.
Professionals who have integrity, and from their catalog you can easily read that these are professionals who are able to deliver.
Everywhere you go, you have to up your games. You have to go with the trends.
Not forgetting the margins as well as the risks that come along.
The runaway prices of the land. We are saying that it's something that we can never go without mentioning. Any developer will not go without mentioning price of land.
Don't miss out. Do you want the latest news on farming? We've got the WikiLeaks for you. Get it? No? Well, okay. Every week, we give you insights on different farms from crop farming to animal keeping.
They're very hardy insects, yeah? The larvae are very hardy insect.
We look forward to having an optimum production in maybe about 5 years. Yes. Yeah.
So we plant every week and we harvest every week.
Join Violet Njoki every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. as we skooma the wiki.
It's not all the time you have to read your farm. Sometimes it's of benefit.
Starting this September at 8:30 p.m.
Hi and welcome to The Grind. My name is Violet Njoki.
We continue to provide the platform that aims to inform and educate on business-related matter. We are here to ask all the relevant questions on your behalf.
When it comes to a catering business, do you need licenses?
Yeah, a lot of it.
And inform you what is happening in the business arena. Be sure to stay tuned.
All week, you look forward to the weekend. And we are here to help you make the most of it. Catch me, Karen Karini, on Fridays. And with me, Mwathi Minor, on the weekend.
Disability is not only limited to physical disorder but also mental issue. From depression.
I was under depression for like 2 years.
Bipolar.
Bipolar disorder is a mood disorder.
And even suicidal thoughts.
When I was just about to hang myself, a certain voice just talked to me, and I believe that was God. I tried suicide more than 6 times.
Beyond the Limit has gone beyond its limit
That's
to
down on
find
the Alelah Conservancy. This
disability is not only limited to physical disorder, but also mental issue. From depression.
I was under depression for like 2 years.
Bipolar.
Bipolar disorder is a mood disorder.
And even suicidal thoughts.
When I was just about to hang myself, a certain voice just talked to me, and I believe that was God. I tried suicide more than 6 times.
Beyond the Limit has gone beyond its limit to find answers so as to help everyone go through life with ease. Join Muthoni Maina every Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Starting this September at 8:30 p.m. on Tuesday, The Realtor brings it all to perspective. We identify a property, discuss and demonstrate the journey towards ownership.
Professionals who have integrity, and from their catalog you can easily read that these are professionals who are able to deliver.
Everywhere you go, you have to up your games, you have to go with the trends.
Not forgetting the margins as well as the risks that come along.
The runaway prices of the land. We are saying that it's something that we can never go without mentioning. Any developer will not go without mentioning price of land.
Don't miss out. Do you want the latest news on farming? We've got the WikiLeaks for you. Get it? No? Well, okay. Every week, we give you insights on different farms, from crop farming to animal keeping.
they're very hardy insects, yeah? The larvae are very hardy insects.
We look forward to having an optimum production in maybe about 5 years. Yes. Yeah.
So we plant every week and we harvest every week.
Join Violet Njoki every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. as we skooma the wiki.
It's not all the time you have to read your farm. Sometimes it's of benefit.
Starting this September at 8:30
p.m.
Thank you. And it's always a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure as well.
I consider it an honor that the station can keep calling me to come and speak to this nation on the issues that we handle every now and then. And to thank God for what He's done for us as a country, and to remind our people that God answers prayers.
That's true.
And doesn't answer prayers for those of you who are going to social media. For those who are going to social media and abusing others, just remember God does not answer angels. He answers human beings, including the ones that you think are not straightforward.
All right.
This morning we are happy that good weather, and we thank God for what has happened. Yeah.
All right, and we are here to have a candid conversation as to what we expect as a people. And there's no better person to help us decipher in this, because a majority of the guests that I'll tell you, they're always aligning to a certain direction. They're always on the other side. They're those ones who will tell you that, oh, God has answered prayers for these ones that are not the best. Then they start questioning God and all that. For any time, I'd love to get, a balanced approach to matters and issues. I always would say that then this is the man to help us articulate this. And I think objectivity is very, very important, especially at this point, that after all the shenanigans and after all that point of acceptance that indeed finally we are done with the electioneering period, we also need to come to a point where we agree that now we have a government, and it's a government for Kenyans and not a government for Kenya Kwanza. And so this morning we definitely take a look at what to expect that is in the Kenya Kwanza government. We have members of parliament who are out there as well, the induction process. And we also have our president out of the country in his first official visits outside, that is official foreign visit, as well as, you know, people commemorating the Queen. Perhaps we should start with that bit of the Queen, and you realize that, you know, it is her story that forms the basis of the conversation across. The papers this morning have like 6, 7 pages, 8, speaking of the Queen. They say farewell like no other, and indeed we all witnessed yesterday. Sometimes they say even if you do not want to, it is where and it is what the world is watching, and therefore you have no choice but to as well try and take a look at what is happening. Give it to her. 70 cool years.
Yeah, and considered as one of the longest serving monarch.
Yeah.
Actually, until yesterday, I thought she was the longest serving because
she was.
The media keep reporting as if she is the longest serving. 70 years is not a short time.
Right.
It's a long time.
Long.
Leading. But I'd like to tell you that the longest serving monarch is, I think it's called Banzu or somebody of Swaziland.
Swaziland. Okay, well now this is a different years.
Who has done almost 90 years. Up to at the beginning of the 19th century.
Yeah.
And there are others who have done over 70. But in the recent known history, she's the longest serving.
Right.
And 70 is a long time. There's mixed feelings from people in terms of the fact that she's been the head of the British Commonwealth. And the British Commonwealth is only known for colonialism to an extent. I don't know that you've listened to the clip that Malema of South Africa,
yes.
Saying that, look, even the crown she wears, that gold comes from us.
Yes.
It's really gotten from the backs of our people. Gives instances of people who died. I saw a meme the other day of some Mau Mau generals, one called Matenjwa and whatever. You know, seated around a table, skeletons, and they were saying Elizabeth is here. You know, the way the Mount Kenya people pronounce Elizabeth. Elizabeth is here. So it's a mixed feelings, but I think the world has decided to go and commemorate her funeral, which is taking place, I think, today. Was it today?
Yesterday was the whole, yes.
Yesterday. So she's the leader of the last empire, as it were. You know, there were empires as known in the past. You know, the French Empire, the Roman Empire, the Greek Empire, you know, all those empires. I think she's the leader of the last one.
Yeah.
And King Charles takes over. One sad thing was a clip that is going around again, where the king is seen greeting people, and he gets to a black person, and he turns around and jumps and greets the next one. It's a very sad thing, but it's really a reflection of people values and all that. We have a big job, Linda, to ensure that the world accepts us not the way they see us, but by who we are. Unfortunately, we don't do that.
Yes, sure.
Our presidents went and were put in a bus.
And then, I mean, everyone is causing a fuss of that.
One of them, you can make a fuss.
I don't know whether it is true. You know, at this point, you don't even know whether it's true. And it appeared like it was Mnangagwa, you know, the president, Emerson Mnangagwa of Zimbabwe, who was driving the bus again.
They are photoshopped. Because there's even a Photoshop with Rachel Ruto preaching to them.
And President Uhuru Kenyatta, I don't know,
collecting fare
and all that.
Those are whatever, but the initial one was real. That they actually, there were too many people. If you watch the inauguration of William Ruto last week, it took almost 50 minutes to get 20 heads of state out of the stadium. Now imagine the number of heads of state in that. It's a huge number. So maybe they looked at the protocols of getting everybody in and everybody out. Because even the presidents coming in and the prime minister coming in at Kasarani took almost an hour. Because they all can't drive following each other. You know, there's a protocol that you have to use. So maybe they saw this was the right way to do it.
Right. Okay, well, and lots has been captured on the papers this morning as pertaining to the reign of the Queen, and I think we've been talking about this since the 8th when she passed on. and therefore we do not delve much into it much as
I'm happy
they say
with
it's
that.
that moment of, you're happy with that, yeah?
I'm happy with
I remember there were a couple of people who were saying that please do not treat us to hours and hours of this funeral service. I mean, because we need to discuss, we need to have normal programming and all that. And so really, may her soul rest in eternal peace. Historic moment for her. And then we want to watch the reign of King Charles. But above everything, the relationship between the British and the Africans, these conversations of the Commonwealth, these aspects of having our leadership, discussing bilateral talks, and, looking at aid or looking forward to get aid, or better yet, to have 50-50 conversations because we are capable, we are able at this very point. These are the times of, colonization, in as much as we speak of neo-colonization creeping in slowly by slowly. Just how best can they negotiate on behalf of Africa, if not
I don't think Africans need to negotiate,
right?
From a position where we always negotiate that they are ahead of us. We need them to help us.
Should be more of 50-50.
I think, and I'm a firm believer, that God by choice placed most of the natural resources in a small place called Africa. And Africans have refused to wake up the realization that we are such a blessed people that we don't need anybody else to be able to feed ourselves, to be able to drive ourselves, to be able to do anything for ourselves. Until we wake up to that realization, we will continue being beggars. And from my position, we shouldn't be begging anybody for anything. People should actually be coming to talk to us. 60-70% of gold is found in Africa. 70-80% of diamond is found in Africa. They're saying that right now, almost 60-70% of oil is found in Africa. So really, God help us that we can wake up one morning as a country like Kenya. We stop depending on others and we depend on ourselves. I keep looking back to Kibaki's time, and I've told you many times I had issues with his economic policies because his economic policies ensured that a few people became multimillionaires, but the rest remained the way they were. But truth be told, he came in and said, I'm not going to borrow. And by in 2 years, he didn't borrow a single cent for his budget. And until he went out, he didn't.
He did not.
He didn't borrow much. By the time he left, we had only 1.8 trillion shillings of debt. Of course, today we are at 8.4, which means we are capable of doing it ourselves. The economy grew from -2 to +7 in 5 years. We are capable of doing it.
The current administration largely appears to be enticed by that, and they say that they look forward to borrow a lot from what it is that Kibaki did. While you acknowledge that there was that tremendous, difference and that tremendous trajectory, but you also, highlight that you really were not so comfortable and happy about his style of managing the economy. Do you suppose that this is the direction for us to take?
Just remember, he ran the economy the way an economy is supposed to be run. Live within your means.
Okay.
Live within what you have. So even when you borrow, you're borrowing to help you develop. You're not borrowing to pay your salaries to maintain what you have. The only issue I had with him is that it was more trickled down, so that it created a very good number of billionaires who had money flowing, because there was money, pesa mfukoni ilikuwako. So the money was in the pockets, but there was not enough to be able to raise the economy for the common person. So that when he left, I don't want to sound negative, like it was a shell. But you can see it crumbling.
It was more of a short term.
Yes, you can see it crumbling. Even the business that went shot up so high, they haven't maintained that status. They have come down themselves. So and it didn't create new people. It created this within the same. But the basic foundation, the basic policy was right. That you can depend on yourself and be able to grow. You do not need other people.
And therefore, there are a few things that could be worth borrowing.
Not a few.
A couple.
Borrow everything, but allow that the trickle down, not trickle down, but I know these are very sensitive thing.
Yes.
Ndiga was here, he will jump,
yes.
but you need to have a bottom up.
Right.
So that you ensure that that effect comes to everyone at every level.
And as well, make sure that it maintains at that very level.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, and still back to the Queen, and this should be the closing factor. Perhaps the biggest worry of the monarch, the biggest worry of King Charles right now is how to make sure that he maintains that status quo, where they are, and most importantly, make sure that these other countries, of course, those ones that are under the Commonwealth, then would stay, hold them together. What if one day then the African presidents would decide that enough is enough, like you rightfully put it? We are not part and parcel of the Commonwealth, those ones that are.
Nature bores vacuum.
Yes.
So hence, something else will come in to fill up that space.
Okay.
At the moment, it's going to take long before that monarch collapses on its own. The French did, the Greek did, the Roman did. So a time will come when even this one will happen. Whether it happens during the life of King Charles or the next king, because now most probably we'll have a couple of kings before we get a queen, the next king, at some point it will crumble, not because of Africa, but because even if internally, maybe the British at some point will get tired on having a monarch.
Yes.
But the good news is that Queen Elizabeth has maintained a status where he wasn't overbearing on anybody. So it became a symbol of unity especially for the British citizens,
yes.
and not as a ruler.
Right.
If she became a ruler, I'm sure by now that kingdom would have gone.
Yes.
But so Charles at his age and knowing his character over the last couple of years, I suspect that he will go on with the same status as his mother, as a leader of a monarch, not necessarily overbearing on the British people, on his leadership.
All right.
Because in the past, the kings would be finished by overbearing on his people. Now people don't feel the burden of maintaining that kingdom.
That kingdom.
At all.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But Africa, at its own time, will wake up.
All right.
And when we wake up, they have to find a way of negotiating with us, not us going to them. Them come to us.
All right, and we're looking forward to that moment. Let's talk Kenya.
Yep.
And we ask inside the Kenya Kwanza government, and I mean, lots of jitters as we await for the president to come back from that state visit, and also from New York, where he will be attending the United Nations General Assembly. And when he comes back, of course, the first and the most important thing that Kenyans await will be the naming of the cabinet. We're talking about his promise of according women 50% of the same. Whether he's going to manage to do so or not is a question of wait and see. But a bigger question is why this long? It was almost certain to him, and he had the confidence that he would form the next government. Perhaps like the likes of Kibaki that he tries to emulate, he would have named the cabinet almost immediately.
It's a good thing that we all think that we can advise the people in leadership on what they should do. Yet they have their own methodology of negotiating to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Imagine if he came in and the following day he announced a cabinet. What would we be saying today? That is vindictive. Today the same CSS are still running the office. Whether they are seated on the one side of the seat knowing that I'm going out, but they still have the full responsibility of
By the irony of
it
all, is that the current administration, that is now the coming administration, castigates the previous one in as much as they sat in the same administration. And when you castigate an administration, you automatically understand that it is about the CSs that formed that administration, the executive at large. Yeah. So why would you still want the same executive that you purport to have least lots of amounts of money to keep running the events?
The world will not collapse in a week.
Okay.
The man was sworn in on Tuesday last week. He comes back maybe Thursday, Friday. He names his cabinet on Monday. That would be only 2 weeks. Why are we jittery? He'll do that.
Okay.
And I think also you must remember that there must be a lot of negotiation as to who becomes part of that
That's
government.
true.
And where I sit, the only challenge I've seen in the names that are coming out is to see that there are politicians who are supposed to, you know when you see a proposed, this conversation that keep going on, so and so will come out of Senate and become minister of what and all that. I feel jittery because I'm just hoping that he doesn't do that, that he doesn't bring in the politicians into government.
Because then we'll be treated to by-elections, first of all.
First of all, is by-election, which would be a waste of our resources that we don't have. Number two is the fact that the same thing happens now again. Because while CSs are really a policy people for government, but there's a sense in which Abidangen Demo, being the CS for IT, will give the confidence for everybody else that he will deliver on that.
Because he's a technocrat.
He's a technocrat.
Is it?
A politician who are also qualified. I'm sure you've seen proposals of people like Dindi Nyoro becoming the minister for planning or something like that. He's an economist. But first of all, he's a politician. And he's presented him as a politician. So you go into that office and then politics begins all over again. Give somebody else an opportunity to be able to move forward.
Interesting. Edwin Kigoli, are you there? Do we have Edwin? Kigoli,
yes, I can hear you.
I can't hear you. Good morning.
Good morning, Linda.
How are you?
Very well.
Good to have you. Thank you so much for creating time. Now, we have Alex Mwathi with us in studio. We're trying to, still hoping that we have Wakili joining us in a bit. My producer is in contact with him. But before then, we're talking about the formation of the cabinet and what we expect from, that is Deputy President, President William Ruto, from being a deputy, and the fact that there's been a bit of a delay in his naming of the cabinet. We definitely would expect that once he's out or he's back into the country, then that should be the first assignment. We speak of a couple of matters that perhaps he might need or he will consider in the formation of his cabinet. Of course, the 50% promise that he gave to the women. And Senior here is not, very comfortable with this conversation of having politicians as cabinet secretaries, in as much as there are people who've argued that this should be the way to go. The previous government tried this in terms of getting technocrats on board. But, from what we hear is that they really did not deliver as such. What would you make of this very argument, politicians versus the technocrats?
Well, thank you very much, and I'm glad to join our viewers this morning. And my initial reaction would be that Kenya is a highly political environment, and sometimes bringing in fresh technocrats to deliver on this public mandate is usually very difficult. You will want to realize when President Kenyatta and William Ruto brought in the mentioning of technocrats and how most of them mismanaged public resources, then really didn't know what to do when they were supposed to act. And I think it's an issue of preparedness and that conducive environment where a cabinet secretary should deliver. And I don't think President Ruto is really late, because considering what happened during the Jubilee government, in fact, I dare say Ruto is just on time, because really there is no constitutional timeline as to when he should name the cabinet. We know constitutionally he's required to name the cabinet, but at this point in time, really there is no lacuna or vacancy and say like his government is disjointed because there are no cabinet secretaries. Right now, the cabinet secretaries that were serving President Uhuru Kenyatta, some of them are still reporting to his office, meaning that service delivery is not hampered per se. However, it is fair that he acts with speed and moves with speed to ensure that he is naming a new cabinet secretary or cabinet secretaries, and that he gets this anxiety out of the way, because people are expecting that he is able to name his cabinet, and now those who are already in office know their fate. Are we supposed to continue, or we are supposed to step aside? Because Linda, you want to imagine that ordinarily they should have left office right now, and they have not left office because President William Ruto perhaps has asked them to continue serving until such time that he has asked them to step aside or hand over power to a new cabinet secretary coming in. But let him come back home. There's still a lot more to focus on, because you'll realize that it is a very cardinal responsibility to name the cabinet. However, moving forward, I want to say that the issue of naming politicians into cabinets is not entirely bad. However, we know most of our politicians really don't like to deliver very much on the promise of Kenyans, because they want to play politics from morning to evening. And therefore, the hope that we will get technocrats into office and deliver is the only thing that can get us going. But then again, will we create an environment and enable the technocrats to deliver? And my colleague mentioned the name of Bitangendemo, and is a good and renowned Kenyan who is very well versed in ICT matters, and if he's able to take that docket, then that's good. But then again, ICT is one among many sensitive dockets. You want to talk about treasury, and I don't think President Ruto has inherited a strong, robust economy that is working for all. The cabinet secretary for devolution and finance or treasury needs to come in with robust, practical and solid solutions that are going to turn around the economy of this country and bring it back to productivity. Because right now we're experiencing the highest number of young people who are unemployed but yet employable. We are also looking at an economy that is almost in recession. So we want pragmatic, clear, concise and solid steps that are going to ensure economic resuscitation and revival, so that we bring Kenya into that productive capacity that it should be. And when I go into the aspect of devolution, unfortunately, Jubilee government was never intended to facilitate and give devolution a healthy environment to thrive. There was the issue of delayed disbursement or release into the counties, and the equitable share was always met with resistance in terms of late disbursements, and now county governments cannot even appropriate the funds that are committed to them. Under the Ruto government, we want to see a shift in focus. Can they put devolution the center of service delivery? Because devolution is allocated entire 11th chapter of the Kenyan constitution, meaning it is the key pillar, a key foundation of this new constitution.
Kigoli, we will come to that question of devolution, which is at the heart of it. And I think the past 1 week and coming to this week, the biggest question I've been asking on just what then the president needs to do to make sure that devolution is successful, because if at all, after 5 years, he's going to be rated, then hugely his success or his failures will directly be pegged to the performance of devolution. But like Senior here would say, equally on that matter of the cabinet, this aspect of rewarding loyalty would get us to a point where we risk high capabilities of having people going for by-elections, and that also he cites as one of his greatest not really fear, but as such he feels like it should not be the direction that Kenyans are taken to. An expensive affair as well. Most of these constituents then would have picked these particular leaders because they believed that these are the leaders to make change for them. So then that would be like treating them to a space where then they have to get options, perhaps options that they would really not be comfortable and happy with. What's with leaders trying to always play safe in that you assume that maybe you might not be lucky enough to get into government, and therefore, like the current speaker, you have to play safe and make sure that at least you still vie in the event that this side does not work well, which happened in 2017 when he was on the side of NASA. He was one of the principals of NASA coalition, but lucky enough to have secured himself the senatorial position. And the same has happened this time around. What was with this politicians playing these games, and what does it mean, or where does it leave the constituents or their constituents who believe in their kind of leadership?
Sometimes you know, for example, when Mama Charity Ngilu stepped down for Malombe, you know, she believed that Azimio would form government and she would make it to cabinet. Now you see, she's missed out on the gubernatorial position.
Yeah.
Azimio lost on two fronts, at the populace and then at the judiciary level. So politicians will always want to maximize on available chances. So let me first of all be elected. First and foremost, be elected. Just like Moses Wetangula, my first priority is to be elected in the Senate. Just in case we fall short of numbers, I still retain my senatorial position as the senator for Bungoma. But in the event we come up with the majority numbers, then I lose nothing. In fact, I end up gaining a lot more because I just need to resign my senatorial position and contest for Speaker National Assembly and win. And clearly for him, the odds have worked. And he is now the Speaker of the National Assembly. But now for somebody like Mama Charity Ngilu, she has to stay out for the next 5 years, and who knows what happens. So it is always in the interest of politicians. You know, these are the people who think from the perspective of what is in it for me, what is my interest, what is my come in, what is my take home. That is how a politician will think. If I come to TV47, of what political essence is it bringing me? Is it going to make my viewers hear and see me more? And if that is going to work for them politically, sure, they will come. Now,
so what would be the president's card to make sure that then he saves most of these constituents from these by-elections that we speak of? Because we also saw what was captured yesterday on the papers, and generally what was making rounds, the possibilities of, you know, having the likes of Eden Duale and Ndindi Nyoro, like Senior would say here. So briefly, what then would it take for the presidency to consider so that they can perhaps confidently tell them that in as much as you have been loyal to us, we can overlook that aspect of loyalty and say, you know what, let's get other Kenyans who are able before we come to Senior? Briefly.
Well, it takes also the issue of loyalty and ability to deliver. If they have, most of these politicians have the credentials and the necessary academic background to support a cabinet position or appointment, and therefore ability to deliver and that capacity to deliver should override any other factor. And it will not be the first time that we are going to have a by-election occasioned as a result of an appointment to the cabinet. So as a president, you also need a cabinet that you can trust, a cabinet you have confidence in, a cabinet that you understand. They've been together with the likes of the Honorable Ndindi Nyoro and the likes. So it is not out of the blue moon that some of them make it to cabinet, because maybe in their way of interaction, President Ruto knows Ndindi Nyoro can deliver here. These other MP can deliver there. So he will allocate and assign duties depending on the ability and the capacity of the appointee to deliver on his manifesto, on his agenda. So it is up to the president to decide.
Perhaps on that very matter, as we close on this cabinet talk, Senior, in the event that these gentlemen or ladies that are capable, well known to the president, and therefore he understands their capability and equally understands the political gamble that comes along with you, just making sure that you present your bid to a certain constituency or to a certain, say counties, so that you are safe. I mean, is it then proper for him to say, well and good, this rises above a certain constituency and thinks about Kenya, and therefore accords them that gratitude, and most importantly, then render these ones that voted for them to a by-election?
My thinking is it's simple. That every position that exists for a certain purpose. To an extent, a member of parliament, whether senator or National Assembly, are people who create laws for this country. Meaning that if the government wanted to move a certain agenda, they would need them to be able to whip their members to go and vote for an act or for something that allows the government to be able to act in a certain way. We know we need subsidies, is an issue of NHIF, is an issue of this, so that if something has to be done, the government does that through law, through the legislature. The CS is an action person. Is a person who acts on what has already been decided. So if you ask me from a perspective of representation, a member of parliament like Didi Nyoro will do more service, in my opinion, for the people of Kiharu being in the house. He'll do more value for President William Ruto when he's in parliament. Because if there is any policy issue that needs to be discussed and passed, whether it's a budgetary or whatever it is, whether it's that allocation of more funds to the counties, ensuring that the money gets to the counties in time, the Senate needs to be able to question the government, and because you're part of the same two sides of the same coin, you're able to discuss. So that I don't see a situation where you need more psychophancy in the CESs, in the cabinet, as opposed to in the house. And this shouldn't be an issue of psychophants. And I know there's an element of reality that you don't want to sit in a cabinet with people who disagree with you. But if you appoint people who have the capability to be able to deliver, and I used Bitang and Demo as an example. I could have picked anybody else. I used Bitang and Demo as an example. And you know, Bitang already is an ambassador in Australia. So Austria, I think Germany, wherever. So the bottom line, he's in Belgium. I was picking him as a when he was a PS for IT, he was known more than the CS because of his ability to deliver whatever he said he would deliver, and his ability to be able to communicate to the world as to what he could do. So there are many Bitang and Demos in this country who can do exactly the same in the position of the CSS. I hope you know that we no longer, the president no longer appoints the PSS. The principal secretaries now apply. And is ongoing right now. I think today is the final day for that.
For them to receive.
And people who desire to become principal secretaries are applying because they are the accounting officers for the ministries, as it were. So the only person that he can appoint is the CS. And there are many people who would think with him in terms of taking this country forward, but who would have the withhold to be able to follow through for whatever position they are appointed, because they know. We have economists, we have agriculturalists. If today you seated here, there's a guy called Henry Kenya, who was the Minister for Agriculture for Nyeri County for the very first government, the one who passed on. I think it was the one. The
brother to Rigathi?
No,
the first one.
The second one, the one who died in an accident. And those kind of fellas, when you read articles that they do, you say, wow, this guy has an idea of where agriculture can be taken to this country. And a cabinet secretary like that will help this country move forward in terms of implementing the policies that will be formed as part of the laws that are passed on in parliament.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
So
that you don't cost us 10 constituencies where by-elections are done.
All right. Okay, let's take a short break, and then we come back on that very note, expound some more on getting to understand what Kenyans then would expect on this or from this very new administration after this break.
You are watching TV 47, the home of untold stories. Disability is not only limited to physical disorder, but also mental issue. From depression.
I was under depression for like 2 years.
Bipolar.
Bipolar disorder is a mood disorder.
And even suicidal thoughts.
When I was just about to hang myself, a certain voice just talked to me, and I believe that was God. I tried suicide more than 6 times.
Beyond the Limit has gone beyond its limit to find answers so as to help everyone go through life with ease. Join Muthoni Maina every Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Starting this September at 8:30 p.m. on Tuesday, The Realtor brings it all to perspective. We identify a property, discuss and demonstrate the journey towards ownership.
Professionals who have integrity, and from their catalog you can easily read that these are professionals who are able to deliver.
Everywhere you go, you have to up your games. You have to go with the trends.
Not forgetting the margins as well as the risks that come along.
The runaway prices of the land. We are saying that it's something that we can never go without mentioning. Any developer will not go without mentioning price of land.
Don't miss out. Do you want the latest news on farming? We've got the WikiLeaks for you. Get it? No? Well, okay. Every week, we give you insights on different farms, from crop farming to animal keeping.
They're very hardy insects, yeah? The larvae is a very hardy insect.
We look forward to having a conversation briefly touched on the farewell process of the Queen, and most importantly now taking a look at what is likely to be of the cabinet of President William Samoei Ruto, as well as the conversation of members of parliament, members of the Senate, and the governors, you know, the sessions that they're having, those ones for induction, and very, very important sessions for them to chart the way forward. Some would argue expensive and unnecessary. Others would argue very necessary, especially to initiate those ones that are coming in for the first time.
You're talking about induction?
Yes.
Anybody saying it's expensive?
Well, some of them, a majority of people,
Wow.
I mean, I have people on set to say, is it necessary for us to have all this, for them to go and eat sausages and all that? You tell me.
Wow.
Yeah. Is it not?
Wow.
And
Honesty,
I mean, they want to equate this with the ceremonies that we've seen of swearing in ceremonies and all that. Saying
anyone will tell you, if you take a new job, the only way you can perform well in that job is if your induction was right.
Yes.
So that you can know what needs to be done. And being a member of parliament or a member of the Senate is not a walk in the park. If they were to do the job they're supposed to do, to even understand their role.
Yeah.
You've seen them on campaign trails, especially the greenhorns, the people who are new, saying the things that they're going to do for their people. You know, we're going to build roads for you, we're going to build schools for you. It's not their responsibility.
That's
for
right.
them is to create laws that allows that to be done.
Yeah.
So the induction process for anybody who is new in any job is critical. For me, I think is the most important time for them.
Yeah.
If only they could learn from that. So that we don't have a situation where we have a parliament of 347 members of MPs, and then we have 50 plus Senate members, and we only hear about 10 of them. It's the time that we wish that they could sit in that induction program, understand their role, how they need to use their researchers so that they can be able to research on information and issues that they need to address. And once they bring them on the fore, that you have 200-300 of them speaking, not 10 of them.
Yeah.
How many members of parliament do you know offhand?
Definitely not so many.
Not so
Yet
many.
I'm on this space. and
Right now
very
you're
rare.
hearing, oh,
Yes.
there's so-and-so is a new, sorry, is a senator for such as, oh, he's a new guy. Sorry,
yeah.
no, he's been there since 2013. You understand?
Yes.
So this induction program for me is very critical. And a person who run businesses, I know if I don't induct the people that are employed correctly, they will not perform.
That's true.
And this is critical. I'm surprised that anybody can question it.
And you know, in
and
this
you
process
remember
of
this
induction,
time,
yes.
for the first time, the induction is being done at Safari Park. So if you are going to fly to Mombasa, I would question.
Yes.
But when it's in Nairobi, I'm more than happy for them to go and get inducted.
There's pretty not much that is being spent. Anyway, they speak of the induction process and what then the speaker comes out to address, say, promises and, you know, tells them that he is in talks with the Salaries and Remuneration Commission to make sure that there's not a slice of the allowances, the mileage reimbursements are intact, and all this conversation. In their own wisdom, the SRC termed it necessary to take them to this direction. Why do they fight so hard to maintain this?
Because we are selfish and we are greedy as a people. To an extent, when somebody takes that position, he's also looking at the amount of money he spent in campaign. I think we have had a conversation with you questioning how you spend 60 million shillings for the campaign, yet your salary for 5 years will be less than 60 million.
60 million.
So hence, you're investing in hot air. And people have to look for ways of reimbursing that, which is not a good thing, but that's us. you know, when the SRC came up with a new scheme of allowances, removal of CADF by the courts and all that, the conversation immediately was that these things will be restored. There was a silent discussion that it will be restored. Now, who makes those decisions? Unfortunately, the legislature. So they may actually overrule, and they have done that in the past.
In the past, yes.
They have done that in the past. They might actually overrule by creating a law that allows them to do that, either directly or indirectly, which is unfortunate. That people go to leadership, not to provide leadership, but to enrich themselves. It's a very sad affair. And that's why you find people shifting all over the place. I was having a conversation with someone last evening, and he's a foreigner. And the conversation was, oh, you had two main parties. They said, yes. How old are they? And they say they are hardly, you know, and look at Kenya Kwanza and Azimio, none of them was 6 months. They were hardly a year old. I said, what? Yeah. Kenya Kwanza, Azimio, the main two protagonists, were less than a year old. My God, and your democracy is 50 years plus. I said, yes. But we know, like the sun rises from the east, that come 2027, Kenya Kwanza will not be there. Azimio will not be there. We'll have new parties. Because these are gravy trains, as it were.
Right.
So that when you go into it, and that's why people now are in parliament.
It's convenience.
Are in parliament, and they want to shift now to the other side of
and I think the
executive.
Biggest question, and we're going to come to that conversation of the majority versus the minority and who takes it, who does not take it. I'm sure this would be Moses Wetangula's biggest assignment and first assignment as pertaining to first big assignment as pertaining to how he handles the business of the House. But Edwin, we come to you as to the induction, and I'm sure you've been watching this on television, different utterances coming from the leaders and the members of parliament as to what do we expect for the 13th parliament. It would be very, very important for us to get it right, because the 12th one really appeared not to have performed to the expectation of a majority of Kenyans. And you find that there are others that were on the 12th parliament that they find their way back. Others have been there before, then they left, then they're back. They are the new ones and all that. Your expectations for the 13th parliament, and this in relation to the induction process, which Senior here says is very, very important.
That parliament was that it was largely used as an executive tool. When you look at the way, the manner in which Security Laws Amendment Bill, the IEBC, you know, the amendment, the Elections Amendment Bill that was brought before the floor of the House, you realize that they were pushing this to satisfy to quench the thirst of the executive. The executive wanted was changed, and Speaker Justin Muturi did all it took to ensure that the laws were passed as the executive wanted. Parliament, say the Jubilee wing, did not even want to change a single detail in that bill as proposed or as wanted by the executive. And this is time that the 13th Parliament need to rise from the whims of the executive. Like, they should be Parliament, as judiciary is trying to be judiciary. Because if we, the people, elect you, give you the mandate to represent us, we are not giving you the license to go and be the surrogate of the executive. You're supposed to perform three main important functions. Number one, you are supposed to legislate. Number two, you're supposed to oversight. And number three, you are supposed to represent. Now, if you fail in the three, you don't deserve to get re-elected. Now, when members of parliament are going for induction here at Safari Park, and I agree with my colleague, it is economical, because one way or another, they have to be inducted, because they need to be acquainted with the rules and procedures of the House, because Parliament is a house of rule and procedure. They need to get an idea about the standing orders. Of course, they cannot master the standing orders within the induction period, but they will get a glimpse of what the standing orders are and get a head start in terms of how to legislate, how to introduce bills, and you know, the general procedures and processes around Parliament. And SRC
has been a thorn in the flesh of Parliament. This actually, to me, would look like a moribund commission. This commission, you would imagine the brief it was given was go and make Parliament a living hell for MPs, because members of Parliament perform a very important function in this country. If we want to negotiate for international instruments, we will call upon Parliament through its various committees, and now the plenary. Parliament will have to negotiate on these instruments. If the country is say invaded, we will need parliamentary approval for the president to declare war on such a situation. So this is a very important house, and the SRC's latest move to scrap MP sitting allowances, terming them as ordinary way of conducting, like they are supposed to do that. When the SRC sat to come up with that resolution, they earned allowances. So they forget they are earning the same allowances that they are denying members of Parliament. Okay. This is actually a commission. I would be very happy to sponsor a bill to disband it and just send them home. Let us redistribute their functions to, say, Parliamentary Service Commission. Let us just remain with Parliamentary Service Commission, because it looks like nothing else this SRC is doing other than checking how much do MPs take home, what is allocated for them in terms of allowance. They say we want to save 1 billion, all right? Look at what Parliament gets from the national budget, all right? Against other departments. You will find a ministry would rack in more than Parliament gets. But in terms of functionalities, you find Parliament is reaching in every corner of government, because now, if we want to remove the president from office, you will need Parliament. If we want to pass the fiscal policy statement, we want to deliberate on it, it has to go through Parliament.
And that justifies, for them to get allowances that perhaps might not be necessary. And maybe let me bring that to Senior. You see a very interesting twist as to this conversation. Perhaps the very first time I hear a Kenyan, in support of what Parliament is getting, and also calling for the disbursement of or disbanding of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission. Has it come to that level?
I've listened, and I'm concerned, because the purpose for the Salary Review Commission and the establishment of that commission was based on the fact that there needed to be an independent organization within that to be able to evaluate the remuneration of public service. Not Parliament.
Not Parliament.
So when they give guidelines for Parliament, they're giving guidelines for every other arm of government, so that people don't become rogue in terms of doing it randomly. And we had situation in the 7th, the 8th Parliament. Every time they went in, the first order of business was to increase their salaries. And we as a people felt that you can't have people who go and increase their salaries. If you're employed, you know that you wait for your management to increase your salary. If you're a CEO, you don't increase your salary. You wait for the board of directors to sit down and evaluate how much you need. And that was the purpose for SRC. It would be wrong for us to portray SRC as an organization that was created
to target Parliament. Okay.
If you are studious, like some of us are, you notice that they have given guidelines on all government services. Number one. So it's not a muribdan thing that wait to whatever Parliament. We have questioned that you get a salary of, say, 1 million shillings when you're working. Then when you go for a board meeting, you get a sitting allowance. We don't do that, because part of your job is to actually sit and do that. So when you're paid as a member of Parliament a salary, our argument has always been, and many of us, has been that is why you're paid. So why should you be paid an allowance now for going to discuss, and that's the purpose for which you're paid a salary? It's a double payment, by all means. Please call it anything else, but don't call it a sitting allowance.
Right.
If now I'm a member of the board of directors of Bamburi, and this is where that issue came up from the beginning, I do my other things. But the board will call me to go and sit and discuss issues that have to do with Bamburi. They don't pay me a salary. So when I sit in that board meeting, I'll be paid, for argument's sake, 40,000 shillings per sitting. How many sittings will I do per year?
Yeah.
Maximum 4. So they know the budget for me would be 240,000 shillings or wherever, and if there's any bonuses and all that. But this is a everyday job, and that's why I'm getting a salary. Then when I sit to do what I'm paid to do a salary for, I get an allowance.
Why should it not be disbanded if at all
Linda.
we will be talking about these parliamentarians? Just a second. And like you have said, the parliamentarians have been able to twist the SRC before. And therefore you ask yourself, if it is as independent and as powerful as it is, why is it that these members of parliament then are able to twist them to a point where then they dance to the tune of the members of parliament as opposed to?
Because we are not, as a people, we don't love following the law. And you start, so that law becomes an excuse for us. Remember, there are 3 arms of government.
Yeah.
At the top, you have the executive, that's the presidency, the cabinet and all that. Then we have the legislature, which is completely independent, supposedly independent. Yeah. And then we have the judiciary as the 3 arms that runs this country per se.
Yeah.
So which means any other body is almost subject to them, even if it's independent. So that parliament creates law. So what they do, they create some way to be able to twist every.
Yeah.
If we were people who respect and honor law, if SLC says you don't pay allowances, you don't pay allowances.
Yeah.
Simple.
Okay.
In the past, they have Linda, because they have gone in and decided to do it.
All right. Yes, Edwin.
Linda.
Yes.
Yeah. You cut me a bit. I was to say that you see, you've never seen judges say we want to down tools because our salaries have been delayed. You won't see judges coming out to say our allowances are interfered with. Actually, when the judges were sitting to hear and determine the presidential petition, one would easily say they earned allowances over and above the ordinary salaries that they would receive for performing their functions. Now, when MPs are allocated sitting allowances, this is all. There are some motivational perks that employees would ordinarily receive, just to motivate them to perform better. And actually, the conversation should be: can we pay MPs more, and even ensure that the pay we are giving to them is tied on performance. So if you're able to perform effectively, and that is quantifiable and it is documentable, and we're able to see, yes, the member of parliament for constituency X has been able to sponsor this number of bills through their functions of oversight, have been able to do this, and representation, they'll be able to do this, then we can say, annually, we are going to review your salaries upwards. Now, when I mentioned about the judiciary, I wanted to bring in the aspect of the health sector, the education sector. These are among key government sectors that touch on the ordinary citizens. We have made judiciary cardinal in terms of remuneration. Now, why can't the SRC itself ensure that the remuneration of teachers and the remuneration of doctors and nurses is a charge under the consolidated fund, as it is with the judiciary officials and judges? Because when a doctor downs their tools, Linda, chances are that you will hear of a patient who has died who was on that life support machine. When teachers go on strike, you will notice that the children of, I would say, the hustlers are the ones who are going to suffer, because the rich take their children to posh schools, like high-end schools. So an industrial action in the education sector might not even make them feel anything. An industrial action in the medical sector will not mean anything, because in any case, they can easily fly out and take care of their health. So if this SRC was serious, and because, every time they come out on a press conference, we expect them to say, Parliament this, Parliament that. We don't hear them come out to say that we are proposing that the remuneration of doctors, nurses, teachers be a charge under the consolidated fund, so that we end decisively the issue of industrial action in the health and education sectors, which are very key. Finally, finally, moving forward, I think the SRC should be sincere with itself, you know, because theirs is to harmonize remuneration of public servants and not to just target one sector. I'm particularly very disappointed in this commission because most of the time it comes out, it only targets Parliament, which does not augur well with me because they are hurting my MP. Because you see, these MPs perform very dynamic functions. Like their dynamics in terms of being a member of Parliament are very different to that CEO. That CEO will come into a boardroom, chair a meeting, or the commissioner will attend a meeting and then they go home. If they are going to spend, it is say on willing basis, say to a friend or largely on family. But an MP is father and mother to every constituent. When you meet your MP, the typical Kenyan expectation is that, Mheshimiwa, you must leave me with something. Yeah. So where do you expect that Mheshimiwa to get the money? The salary you are paying this MP is not even his.
Well, that's interesting. Edwin, pretty much.
No, let me just finish.
Are you intending to be a member of Parliament?
No. Let me finish. You see, MPs are like people's property. And Moses Wetangula, speaker, said they are local ATMs. So if we underfund them,
do you belong to the class that would argue then they are justified, or those ones that get into leadership are justified perhaps to engage in corrupt activities just because then the common mwananchi there would expect for them? And you know, those ones that would come to you and say this is our thief because they steal and they at least come back to share with us. Are you trying to justify that kind of act?
Not at all. Not even a single word would I justify. Because, you see, we the people are the ones who push MPs a lot more.
Yes.
Because if the MPs expect, like MP will say, if I'm going to my village, I must carry some loose change because I will interact with people and the expectation is that I have to give them something.
What would be the most noble thing to do, Edwin? To maintain it at that, or perhaps get to focus much on civic education, enlighten the masses on the roles of members of Parliament, enlighten them on what it is that members of Parliament get, so that they do not have so much of expectations. And members of Parliament, I agree, will tell you that sometimes they have to leave their homes very early in the morning because they know if they are around home, there will be queues and queues from the constituents expecting this. And I have personally witnessed it. Perhaps Edwin has a point, a senior, when he argues that these are the very same members of Parliament that we expect to attend our funerals, to oil our pockets in a way, or our hands, and therefore there is no way we'd allow for them to go out there without these small allowances, because when they come back to us, what do we give them, or what do they give us?
First of all, I want to say that it is not true that when the Supreme Court judges were sitting, that they earned sitting allowance. They don't. First of all, that's a fact.
That's misplaced, yes.
That's misplaced.
Yeah.
Number two, that SRC only deals with Parliament is also a miscommunication to Kenyans. And I think that's lack of knowledge about this thing. And it's okay, because we learn at every age. I invite every Kenyan to go to SRC website, and you'll see the very many documents they have done in terms of, I think the recent one that I remember was the bargaining agreement. They made proposals on the bargaining agreement structure guidelines for civil servants. They have done remuneration for the rest of the civil servants. It's available in their website. They have also done what you call allowances. They have done review not only for the parliamentary staff, but they also made review for all the other civil servants. Again, it's available online. And there are very many documents that you can go there that the SRC have been working on. So their job is not only Parliament. The issue is that it's only Parliament because parliamentarians are politicians that are able to pick up those issues
and magnify them,
make propaganda out of them and blow them into whatever. The reason for inductions, like one that's happening, is to remind the members of Parliament as to what their role is. And one role is not to go and become an ATM for anyone. You go to become an ATM for anyone because you want to bribe people to vote you in. You want to entice them to vote you in, which basically is a crime, as it were. To an extent, members of parliament, and I have friends who are members of parliament who are not ATMs, because they have made their people understand their role. They would go to the society and support them exactly the same way I go to society and support them from my means. You can't legislate or you can't create a fund for people to go and dish out, because that's what my friend is suggesting.
Right.
You can't do that. You got to, people have to live within their means. And we are not the only country that have members of parliament.
Yeah.
You go to Europe, you find Minister of Finance coming and, to us and sitting in with us without any ado about anything.
Right.
In some of those countries, they're not even paid a salary, as it were. They're only paid a sitting allowance, no salary, for the moments when they go to sit and legislate the law. Because what you're providing is leadership. It's not a full-time job, as it were. It's not like being employed as MD for Telecom Kenya and wherever else. And that's where SRC is coming from, that if you're going to get a salary, don't take sitting allowance. But let's remove the salary and you have the sitting allowance, as it were. So but you can't have double. You can't have your cake and eat it. And I don't think we should be labor on this one. It's obvious. Nobody gets two salaries, as it were.
And I mean, the situation in the country is dire.
We are in dire need of people that will be selfless to be able to do those things for us. Now, if the members of parliament will sit in parliament and have policies that guide education, policies that guide health, policies that guide eradication of poverty in this country, and we've had a chance to do that for the last 60 years since we became independent, today we should be a country that does not require anybody to go to the MP's house in the morning. Because people will have enough to be able to do.
And they'll not need it.
And they don't need anybody to help them. So the members of parliament need to sit in parliament, have policies that guide education, policies that guide health, policies that guide poverty, agriculture, so that you have enough food that is affordable for our people. And that's the role that parliament has, not handouts. Handouts are for people who want to maintain people as poor, so that they can be able to eulogize them and put them on a pedestal to be higher than they actually should be.
Well, I take this moment to, of course, take us to a short break, and we come back on the last laps of the very same segment. Don't go anywhere.
Disability is not only limited to physical disorder, but also mental issue. From depression.
I was under depression for like 2 years.
Bipolar.
Bipolar disorder is a mood disorder.
And even suicidal thoughts.
When I was just about to hang myself, a certain voice just talked to me, and I believe that was God. I tried suicide more than 6 times.
Beyond the Limit has gone beyond its limit to find answers so as to help everyone go through life with ease. Join Muthoni Maina every Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Starting this September at 8:30 p.m. on Tuesday, The Realtor brings it all to perspective. We identify a property, discuss and demonstrate the journey towards ownership.
Professionals who have integrity, and from their catalog you can easily read that these are professionals who are able to deliver.
Everywhere you go, you have to up your games, you have to go with the trends.
Not forgetting the margins as well as the risks that come along.
The runaway prices of the land. We are saying that it's something that we can never go without mentioning. Any developer will not go without mentioning price of land.
Don't miss out. Do you want the latest news on farming? We've got the WikiLeaks for you. Get it? No? Well, okay. Every week, we give you insight.
an easy way to skip the show, but all the same, the gentlemen that are in studio is equally able and up to the task as we look at the Kenya Kwanza government. This majority and minority talk. And I do not understand why then it is left for Moses Wetangula. Should it not be as straight as the numbers that don't lie?
You know, somebody said that when we are having this petition, somebody was suggesting that we should create a space in Nairobi where we put a statue of Maina Kiai.
Okay.
To eulogize him for us, because after the last election he went to court.
Yeah.
And among the things he prayed is that at what point is the election decided? And the judges agreed that the election is decided at the polling station. So that everything else is shenanigans. And what we know ourselves to do is to create a situation where we create stories and shenanigans. It's a simple matter. There are numbers of political coalitions. In the past, you remember it was numbers of a party. Then I think in 2017, that's when we started this whole business of coalitions. So that the number of the party with the highest number of members of parliament takes the position of the majority. And that's why majority members.
Okay.
The ones with the next one takes the minority. So now we are talking about Azimio and you're talking Kenya Kwanza coalition.
Okay.
Which party among them has the highest number of members? The one with the highest number will be majority. So the story is already decided. The only question that was there was the fact that because even the independents have to align themselves, either remain independent or align themselves with one side officially, a number of them have aligned themselves with one side of the coalition. So their numbers are stacked up and they have higher numbers, so obviously they'll get the majority leader. Is it not Wetangula to decide in his dreamland? No,
it should be the numbers.
It's the numbers.
The confusion then comes in, and Edwin, maybe you can come in on this, as to whether Azimio is a coalition party or a party of coalitions, you know, all this confusion that is there. And of course, UDA then would say we enjoy the largest number, the largest chunk. And if they would say that, then what happens to the other members of Kenya Kwanza? And it is clearly not so as clean, because it is very, very important that you also dominate the house in terms of numbers. While it appears like it's an ABC matter, because the numbers are as outright as a senior would say right there, why then the tussle?
Well, you see, what Azimio are clinging on is the fact that they are the majority on paper. But in reality, I think Kenya Kwanza carries the day, because you're still in that marriage until the divorce process is finalized. And when you look at the instruments that were deposited at the Register of Political Parties for Azimio coalition parties, you realize that they'll need at least 3 months before a divorce can be initiated. So, but then again, here there is an intention to work with Kenya Kwanza, and that has been demonstrated by the election of Moses Wetangula as National Assembly Speaker from Kenya Kwanza. That tells you that the numbers could be on this other side, you know. So there is that reality, and the like, you know, what is it on paper and what does the law say? And it is not even Speaker Moses Wetangula to come and say, in my opinion, no. He just has to look at the standing orders, he has to look at the constitution, he has to look at the guiding principles within which to allocate the majority and minority side. And I am less persuaded that Azimio will have a day in the National Assembly, because the reality is the numbers have flipped against them. The independents, 12 already are working with Kenya Kwanza. And the Azimio side, we saw like a faction walk out and go to Kenya Kwanza. That has put a dent.
Does that really count?
It does.
It does count. The majority of the other, yes.
You see, it has already counted.
These ones then remain as independents, and also they remain as individuals that have been voted under the party that they were voted in. How does that count?
They will support whichever side they want to support.
Okay, well, in terms of now when it comes to the bills and, the activities of the House?
Okay, just a moment.
Yes.
We must always remember that the constitution that we created in 2010, and I'm sure my colleague will agree with me, has one very critical statement that everyone keeps forgetting. That it says if any law in this land is in conflict with this constitution, this constitution
is supreme.
Will carry the day.
Yes.
What does the constitution say about association? It says every Kenyan has a freedom of association.
Okay.
Which means if there is anything that created a situation where, of course, if there is anything, law or whatever document that creates where fixes me on one point, you can't keep me there.
So the Political Parties Act, the Elections
Act,
it's
a gentleman's agreement.
This one's a gentleman's agreement.
Yes.
Okay, it will be interesting to watch, and therefore, but then again, when it speaks about the timelines that are quoted, say the 3 months, so that you can officially shift, and perhaps then also this would mean take the people to a by-election, because then officially the party that you were elected in is no longer your party, and then you have to go back to your people, perhaps seek fresh mandate and all that. All this would be covered by the Constitution on the basis of there's that freedom of association, or this then would, these gentlemen and ladies would say, we're just associating, we're just aligning to the Kenya Kwanza manifesto, or perhaps the Kenya Kwanza way of doing things, but in real sense we are still on this other side. Is that even possible?
It is possible. Although in the Political Parties Act also there is a whole issue of that you can't belong to one party and espouse the agendas of the other party.
Yeah.
In terms of this support, whether, but that's for political party. But you're talking about a party that is a party to the coalition.
Okay.
Like for example, the UDM.
Right.
The UDM, up to the election time, was part of Azimio. They're saying no. Our choice now is Kenya Kwanza.
Right.
And they're substantial.
Yes.
The independent were independent, but now they say no. We are independent, but we support Kenya Kwanza. So that number gets added to Kenya Kwanza.
This is the latest. Ayir's UDM party files lawsuit to leave Raila Odinga's Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition. So there has to be some legal processes for one to literally then...
And they will do it.
They will do it.
They will do it.
They find no difficulty in that for as long as they align to this.
As long as they align. Because remember, my colleague said that in a roundabout way, he said that we are selfish. So when we go there, we also want to be part of where the cake is being cut. And we know the government is the one that places the cake on the table. So you want to be part of that.
Yes.
And the people have come up with something called AGIP.
Right.
In a government in power.
Yeah.
And you've seen people like Maina Kamanda castigating President Uhuru Kenyatta in public.
Interestingly. Yeah.
In public and saying
almost immediately.
very unreasonable things.
Yeah.
Whether I support him or not, I will not say those things that they are saying, which means it's any government in power. There was a very interesting situation yesterday where the governor of Central Bank was saying that the situation was a bit grave at Central Bank because there are people within the government that wanted to introduce something that was similar to golden back. And he's saying that the loss of value for the Kenya shilling was affected by that.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
He's aligning himself with any
this,
government in power.
The government
and for him, I trust him because he's a very honest man. But you see that situation happening.
It's a game of interest as well. All right, and Edwin Kigoli, we speak of this, and perhaps maybe we would say let's wait and see what then plays out. Kenya Kwanza, and the fact that let's overlook the majority conversation for a moment. Of course, we'll be looking at the committees and who will be the heads of these very committees, but equally enjoying that aspect of leadership by having the speaker in both houses hail from Kenya Kwanza. Just how then do we get the confidence that we look or we stare at houses that hugely are going to articulate the issues of the people of Kenya as opposed to advancing the agendas of their very own parties?
We can only hope that they will live up to the letter and spirit of the Kenyan Constitution. And just as I had said earlier on in my submissions, was that we want to see an independent parliament. We want to see a parliament that can say no to executive excesses, especially at the point of introducing the fiscal policy statement, where the executive brings estimates and Parliament has to either approve or reject. So can we see a Parliament that says no to the executive, just as we saw the judiciary say no to executive on many occasions? Judiciary has come a long way to get to that point when they can even rule against the president. This was unthinkable a few years back, but it is something that is very okay, very admissible before court and before law, because now Kenya is becoming an African cornerstone of the rule of law and constitutionalism. This is what we want to entrench. And the 12th Parliament let us down on many occasions, and we are hoping that the 13th Parliament will rise up to the occasions. If the executive takes the path of policy initiatives that are going to hurt and dent the economic progress that we're supposed to make, Parliament can say no. All the elected members of Parliament, including those who are nominated, cannot be bypassed by a mistake. At least if it passes one, the second one must point it out. There are too many to let mistakes sail through the floor of the House and hurt the common mwananchi. The reference I normally make to is the 16% VAT, where that clause sailed through the House of Parliament very silently, and we only came to learn about it when it was due for execution. Now, even some MPs were surprised that it went through Parliament, meaning some of them were not even serious with their work of legislation. So parliamentarians need to take serious their legislative mandate, because we, the people, under Article 1, have given them the mandate to legislate on our behalf, because you cannot have a parliament of 40-something million Kenyans. We can only have a representative figure. And that's how it is important for them to reward the loyalty and trust we bestowed them through the constitution or operationalization of our constitution, to ensure that they are able to deal with this piece of legislation. Moving forward, I think, and in regards to this majority-minority talk, eventually Kenya Kwanza is going to have the way. Now there is an intention to divorce from Azimio by UDM. So that I know is going to feature prominently, because again, Linda, you cannot be far away from the facts. Look, both houses, the speakers are from Kenya Kwanza. That should tell you something. Azimio could hardly go to round 2. You know, their candidates were conceding in round 1, which now occasioned the clerks of the respective houses to declare that there being no any other contestant, the first round results stand. Now, Azimio want to hang on to the fact that on paper, and according to the report that has been sent by the Register of Political Parties, of course she will do her work and say, according to the law, this is the majority party. But then again, who calls the shots in the National Assembly? If a bill was brought before the House of Parliament now and a vote was taken, which coalition would carry the day? I can already tell from where I'm sitting on a plain eye that Kenya Kwanza will have the numbers. And you rightly put, Linda and my colleague alluded to it as well, that every member would like to go where the cake is sliced. And when government is now bringing the cake, say, North or constituency, we are going to bring this, or Wajir County, we are going to bring this, Bungoma County, Vihiga County. Now, because I want my county to get a good chair, I have to be where decisions are made. Even before that cake comes to the table, and I know my colleague with this experience will tell you that there are some boardroom negotiations that happen even in the kitchen. Now, when we are preparing this cake, how is it going to be? There are already ideas engraved on how the cake will be shared. So I want to be there, even in the kitchen. So when decisions are already being taken informally, which of course will reflect formally, I want to be there. Finally, I want to say this, that in this country, we have to respect the Constitution and the constitutional provisions. Now, Speaker Moses Wetangula is going to be faced with the first task of balancing reality and constitutionalism. My colleague said any law that is inconsistent with the constitution is inconsistent to the greatest of its inconsistency. And I agree with that. So what are we going to base on? Is it what the registrar of political parties said, like according to the law, this is what it is, and then what does the constitution say? And then there is an intention to divorce, all right? So that has already is also to be factored, because if Azimio take the majority side now, it means UDM will defect from Azimio, making it officially a minority side, and they have to relinquish the position. So do we make decisions for posterity or for the moment? So
it will be interesting.
So myopia must not play in this decision. Futuristic approach must be given center stage and the reality thereof, but it has to be in line, or it has to be chiseled in the constitution and the law.
It will be interesting to watch, because then if you want to argue it that way, then the majority, if they enjoy the numbers as at now, what stops them from, you know, taking the next position in the event that there are adjustments downwards or upwards? And this is likely to play out in this very space of parliament, and therefore we wait and watch to see the 13th parliament. Your expectations now that we have, you know, speakers of both houses, you know, hailing from Kenya Kwanza, and the fact that there's that general feel that this ones should be impartial. Just how possible is it for one to be impartial in a scenario where, you know, you really as well again have to play and dance to the tune of the party that kept you there?
Unfortunately for us as Kenyans, we always look in terms of winners and losers in everything that we do. In the election time, obviously there had to be winners and losers. And winners take it all, and losers have their say. Have their say.
Okay,
they have their say, please. But when the members of parliament go to parliament, they take their position in terms of their political parties, but they are one unit. They are not like protagonists.
Split, yes.
Protagonists. That's why even the constitution does not recognize opposition. Opposition party recognizes minority and majority members, which means that their job, the minority have to question the majority when they bring in bills, because the government has made promises to Kenyans and made very many promises. For them to be able to fulfill a majority of those promises, they need laws that will guide the policy of government towards fulfilling them. Where are the laws made? They are made in parliament. So it's in their interest that they are the ones that guide and lead the conversation that is in parliament. Because once you elect a person, for those who elected President William Ruto, for the next 5 years, unless he does something that sets him up for impeachment in the Senate, he will have the authority and vision to lead this country forward. And I keep telling people that it's in our interest that we support him, whether we voted for him or not. Because if we wish him to fail, we will fail. And what happens when you fail, to be able to jump up again, it takes such a long time. So between now and 2027 will come with a blink of an eye. 2027 you can do politics again. But between now and then we need to support. So when these members of parliament are in parliament, they're really supposed to be able to look at these amendments, these policies of government, this budget that the government brings, because of them, that's the biggest item that they're supposed to handle on the agenda. They don't read it themselves. To say that how are the funds that are being collected from Kenyans going to be used? The majority will have their way, their say. Their way, the minority to have their say. So that, like he says, if ODM officially now moved on this side, then the majority will be more. Meaning that there will be a requirement for the minority to be able to make their position known on every item. I wish they stop looking at it from a political point of view, but looking at it from the benefit or loss that the people of Kenya get. We look forward to a parliament that hopefully will have more of desire to change this country, as opposed to serve a purpose. We saw the 12th parliament sitting until 3 a.m. in the morning. I've exaggerated it a bit. Until 11 p.m. to discuss a political party's bill, just to lock in you know, this is what you're talking about, that when you're in a member, then you need 3 months.
Yes.
And they forgot that we Kenyans had passed a constitution that gave me freedom of association.
Right.
So I can join or jump out. So if I have a document, I can always go to court and say, hey, hold on, how does it compare to whatever? And you saw, I don't know that you saw yesterday a very interesting situation. The president said that a nation cannot move forward unless you save and all that. And then he said, these 200 shillings saving for NSSF, it doesn't make any sense. Let's make it a ratio or whatever of how much you earn. What happened? Somebody went to court. And the court said it's illegal.
It is illegal.
You can't force me to save. So you create a law that forces me to save. Is illegal.
Yeah.
The people who are questioning NHIF now, and I suspect that someone will go to court and say, look, I can choose to keep health insurance or not keep it.
Yeah.
You can't force me
You
to
can't
keep.
force me.
And then you're even going ahead and telling me how much I should do my insurance. You know, there are people who keep 2 million shillings. Sorry, there are people who keep 500,000, 2 million shillings. There are people who give insurance for 50 million shillings. I don't know. I think they want to live until kingdom come. But the point is, can you force me to keep insurance?
No, it shouldn't be the case.
It's my freedom.
Yes.
And I suspect Okiki Omtata, Senator Okiki Omtata will go to court for that.
Yes.
Do you know he's gone to court on these digital plates?
Yeah.
That are coming on the car? You want to force me to remove my plate that I have on my car and put another one and
that
pay
will
you 3,000 bob for a piece of metal.
Misplaced. But they say that they'll have the security features that are a little bit different. And
you're the one who wants, we as a nation pay a tax. So spend that money and do it for us.
Okay, well, interesting. Let's talk about devolution briefly before we come to a close. I know we have like about 6 minutes or thereabout, briefly on devolution, now that we also Kigoli touched the same, yeah? Our devolution has to be successful if President Dr. William Ruto then has to be successful, at least in his first term. What does it do?
During his acceptance speech, at Kasarani, one of the key things he said, and you remember he made a raft of promises, and one of the promises that he said is that his government will work towards handing over all the functions that are remaining to be handed over to the county government. But what caught my ear is when he said with the necessary resources. Which means it's not a matter of telling I'm yet to look at what are those few items that are remaining in terms of being devolved. But whatever they are, that he'll move with the resources that are required for those to be done. For me, that was a very strong statement, if it wasn't just a political statement. You remember he said that he'll make the police free of the Minister of Interior by having them run their own budgets. And the following day, he actually signs an executive order to actually do that, which was a very, very risky thing for a politician to be able to do, because politicians at that level want the police with them. In the same way, I'm hoping and I'm trusting, not really hoping is not a strategy, I'm trusting that he will do the same, that he will be able to facilitate the handover of all the other functions to the county government. But do remember that, and our listeners, viewers must remember, that county governments are independent of the central government. And I think there's somebody who say there are 48 governments in this republic, which is basically, in quotes, true, that the governor for Kajiado have, for the function that has been devolved to him, he's the last word.
Right.
The Senate is supposed to watch over him. For lack of word, is an accounting office for the governor. So really the success of a county is in the hands of the governor. To an extent, the question that have always been asked, there's so many billions that are passed every year to each county. What do they do with that money? And that's a key question. And I'm hoping that this time we'll have a few governors that will pack aside a desire to enrich themselves. Like you saw Governor Orengo, he was supposed to, he found that the budget had been allocated to build a governor's house for 40 million shillings and the deputy for 35 million shillings. He said, no, I have a home. I have the house that I'm staying in that is current, is enough.
Yeah.
Of course, I know because maybe he lives more time, he has a home in Nairobi also. But the thinking is right, that this money can be used for other purposes. And I'm hoping that the governors will do that. You saw Machako's governor, the previous governor, Mutua, building up White House. Yeah. Really waste of funds, 200-300 million shillings.
Wasn't necessary.
Completely unnecessary, completely. A waste of Kenyan funds. And you know, that's my taxes. So it pains me to see that. And when you drive around town, the CG numbers for Kiambu, there's so many four-wheel drives running around in Nairobi, and you're thinking, Kwani the Kiambu headquarters is in Nairobi, or is it in Kiambu? Which means they have more cars that they have to spread some of them into Nairobi. That there is a need for them to be able to look forward to a difference that happens. Yeah. We have a COG, Council of Governors. And in the past, we've had a couple of them for the 10 years that we've had. And whatever comes out of Council of Governors is just jostling to get the seat. We haven't had anything that has come of Council of Governors to question service delivery to the people. Yeah. Because in my opinion, that should be a peer review grouping where you ask the governor for Turkana, for Mananok, what are you doing that 9-10 billion shillings you get every year for a population of how many people? 200,000-300,000? Which means you are to distribute that money to every citizen. It would be better than just keeping it elsewhere.
Yes,
So we are hoping that. And I was discussing somewhere and people are saying, oh, you have the first woman COG chair. And I say, yeah, that's a nice one. But I don't want to look at her as a woman. I want to look at her as a governor. Because she's not there because she's a woman. Though that comes with it. Yeah. But she's there because she's capable. She beat everybody.
She did. I mean, it was quite a tight race over the weekend, and we all witnessed that. Interestingly, again,
forget about that one. But even at the county level, yes.
I don't know whether she's going to be facing these cases, but Ngirichi says that yes, she has to challenge this in court because she feels like it wasn't a proper win. I mean, Degwanjiru was part and parcel of that race as well down there, deputizing the candidate for NAC Party. Unfortunately, he did not make it this morning. Perhaps he'd have told us how far they're intending to take it. Let's take a short break and then allow us to have the last minutes of parting shots. All right.
You are watching TV 47, the home of untold stories. Disability is not only limited to physical disorder, but also mental issue. From depression.
I was under depression for like 2 years.
Bipolar.
Bipolar disorder is a mood disorder.
And even suicidal thoughts.
When I was just about to hang myself, a certain voice just talked to me, and I believe that was God. I tried suicide more than 6 times.
Beyond the Limit has gone beyond its limit to find answers so as to help everyone go through life with ease. Join Muthoni Maina every Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Starting this September at 8:30 p.m. on Tuesday, The Realtor brings it all to perspective. We identify a property, discuss and demonstrate the journey towards ownership.
Professionals who have integrity, and from their catalog you can easily read that these are professionals who are able to deliver.
Everywhere you go, you have to up your games, you have to go with the trends.
Not forgetting the margins as well as the risks that come along.
The runaway prices of the land. We are saying that it's something that we can never go without mentioning. Any developer will not go without mentioning price of land.
Don't miss out. Do you want the latest news on farming? We've got the WikiLeaks for you. Get it? No.
welcome back to the last laps of the first segment that is on the question of the discussion. The gentleman with me, we have engineer Alex Mwathi, who's also a governance expert, as well as Edwin Kigoli, who joins us virtually. Edwin, we come to you on the question of devolution. I know I cut you short the first time. Your submissions are still the same as we come to a space where then we close it with the parting shots.
Thank you. As I mentioned, devolution is a very key pillar to our Kenyan constitution. And unfortunately, some county bosses lack the capacity to implement the already devolved functions. And you will hear most of them angling for more functions, yet they cannot authoritatively account for the functions already allocated. Look at some of our counties' health sectors. They are in shambles, they are in mess. And you'll hear time and again nurses saying we haven't been paid, doctors raising concerns and even wanting their functions reversed back to the national government, meaning some county governments are not fully capacitated or lack the capacity to implement the already devolved functions. Maybe it could be their problem. Maybe it could be a problem with the disbursement of equitable share. And this could be a multifaceted issue. And if the national government comes in, when the Jubilee government came into power, they did not come in very powerfully as do we want to ensure that devolution is supported. Just as President William Ruto has now come in stark contrast and says, we want to ensure devolution is working. We want to empower our devolved units by not just ensuring that there is timely disbursement of equitable share, but also the completion of devolving the remaining functions. This, I think, should come with more accountability because we, the people, demand that the county heads, and of course they don't work in isolation, they have an assembly to keep them in check and to pass bills that will give life to all the functions that have been seconded to county government. And also we want county bosses to ensure that their executive committees are well crafted and put in place so that it is inspired by the ability to serve than just rewarding political support. Because sometimes I could have supported you financially and maybe I do not have the academic capacity to run a county executive docket. So the primary focus should be on the ability to deliver because this is a key pillar. And now, over 10 years into devolution, can we say it has been a success? I am less confident to say so. Can we say devolution still has the capacity to grow and develop and be better? Very much yes. And whenever we are faced with the issue of devolution, the thing that comes to focus is the national government having the goodwill to ensure that devolution is working? Because, Linda, this is a function that is ensuring that service delivery is taken closer to the mwananchi. And when county governments are lacking in terms of, lacking that innovation and creativity in terms of raising their own revenue, it worries us because sometimes, it was so ridiculous that some counties could impose a levy on rearing chicken. I don't know if it was just hot air or it was something crystallized and solid. But then again, when you hear things such as that coming up, it talks to how less serious we are with things that matter. Because when you walk around the breadth and length of this country, there are so much opportunities. Maybe we are just not smart enough and not, properly in terms of revenue collection. There is so much wastage and loopholes that if we seal, this country can generate enough to sustain our budget than rushing into borrowing and these loans that will limit our capacity to develop and grow. And yesterday the governor of Central Bank was alluding to that fact that now where we are going, if we continue to borrow a lot more, it's going to put a cap on how much we can develop. And right now you walk into counties, we have the highest number of unemployed, employable graduates who can really come into the economic sphere and contribute immensely so that we're able to grow this country's economy. Devolution is a promise. Agriculture actually is happening right at the county level. So the national government will always come in, and we want to see them go beyond words, because we have seen promises and heard them as well. So can we go beyond words and do what the Constitution requires us to do? As we devolve these functions, do we have the resources enough to second to the functions? Because you don't devolve words, you devolve these functions alongside resources to implement them. Because then again, how are we in terms of, like, should we tax Kenyans more? How much are we going to hurt them if we tax more? Should we borrow? And how much of a dent will we putting into the economy if we borrow? So President William Ruto is inheriting a government that is between a rock and a hard place. Borrowing is going to hurt the economy even more. And taxing Kenyans more is going to just ensure there is so much suffering. And at this age and time when we still see children suffering from hunger and disease, we still see run-down schools without proper infrastructure, we still see a lot of areas that still need to be addressed. And you want to imagine President Ruto is supposed to lead the country in providing solutions to these key issues that are lacking in our national economy.
What is this change of tone as we come to a close, Senior? And this acknowledgement that, we are inheriting a government that really was on its knees, as if people did not know this prior to coming into government or during the campaign moments.
Politics is a game of three things. You remember?
Yeah.
Personality, propaganda, and this is a cliche now, and seduction, mass seduction. So once you finish the campaigning, you still have to place yourself in a position where now, again, you create another set of the same propaganda and mass seduction in terms of a direction that you're going. Did we know that the government was at that position? We knew.
100%.
We 100%. Because you don't need to be a rocket scientist to see that the situation was becoming worse and worse. And the moment your shillings start dropping so much, it means that your economy is doing poorly for the rest of the world. We've known that we import even the basic staple food, which means we don't produce enough. If you're importing rice and maize, then that means we are doing very, very poorly. When Tanzania stops their maize because they have had their own drought, we start connecting that with political situation. They're just preserving their own food. They're having better policy than you do in terms of they want to preserve what they have, so their people don't go hungry. So we knew, but in the political sphere, we must now state the obvious, and that gives us even time as a government to be able to have to work towards solving the issues that are there. It isn't an easy start for Kenya Kwanza, and it was not going to be an easy start for anyone, and it wasn't a secret. Remember that those people that are now in government were already there. For me, the key thing is that as a Kenyan, wherever you are, let's pack this whole story of blame game and support the government of the day so they can deliver on the promises they made. When I talk about supporting the government of the day, I'm not saying that we should not criticize them when they are wrong. When I saw they're having this whole situation of parliamentarians now being suggested as CSS, I'm one of the people who stand up and say, no, it's the wrong direction. So by guiding and criticizing the government doesn't mean that you are not supporting. But let's not stop this blame game and all this. So we know we don't have money.
Let's swing to action.
We know the economy is struggling.
And we know we have drought. And
we know we have drought in about 9 counties that are suffering. So it's a reality. So what do we do in terms of the short term? That we can provide our people food, affordable food, that we can provide our people medical services that is really lacking. Today you have to be a rich person to go to hospital. And those education is another key one. We can't have a system, CBC, that we all talk about all the time. We will make a decision. And when we make a decision, we must convince the parents that this is the right thing. They must be convinced so that they have the energy to be able to take their children to school with the confidence that is required for them to get education. That is the short term. But long term, how do we get out of this cycle of lack of food? We know we cannot depend on rainfall. This is a fact now. Over the last
global warming and climate change.
I remember 1984, we had a major drought. I remember in 1974, we had a major drought. And you know, that goes consistently over the years. So now what do? Israel does it by irrigation. Egypt does it by irrigation. By the way, they export food to us that is irrigated. Turkana is supposedly, statisticians say that the arable land in Turkana is more than the total arable land in Egypt. The amount of water in Lake Turkana is more than the Egyptians are getting from River Nile. Meaning that we can actually grow our food in one county.
Okay.
But the point is, let's spread it across so that on a long-term basis, what do we do to make irrigation affordable, to support businesses here that start producing the equipment that are required for irrigation so that the costs come down. Give them subsidies as they produce to help the future, not to subsidize the food itself. Is to create a situation where food is available at affordable price.
Well, we're looking forward to that. And indeed, like you rightfully put it, I think it's incumbent upon us as the people to as well support the government. Let's see how far then we're able to take this. Gentlemen, asante sana for speaking to us this morning and for the concrete submissions that we have made. We keep doing this, we keep hope alive, and we believe that this then lands to the right ears. We want to close this segment, not in totality, because we also have to cross over to the other side. That is in Kisii County. Elfayo Kombo, our correspondent on standby, also speaking to the people of Kisii, because it's crucial and important that we engage the common mwananchi on ground. And therefore, engineer and governance expert Alex Mwathi, I'll release you and say asante sana for your time, as well as Edwin Kigoli, who should be on standby to now go and face the day. Asante sana for speaking to us this morning. Allow us to cross over to Kisii County. Elfayo Kombo on a standby with more updates and equally listening to the people of Kisii and what they have to say. I'm sure they're all excited about the new government, but most importantly, they have some prayers to make to them. So Elfayo, if you can hear me, good morning.
Good morning. I'm getting you very well from this side of Kisii County, where I have some of the residents from this area. Maybe they are going to give us a glimpse of what are their views about the current government and what they are ongoing. Maybe I have the first person from this side of Kisii. Maybe aweze kutuambia maoni yake ni yapi kutokana na serikali hii ya Kenya Kwanza ambayo ipo sasa hivi.
Kwa majina mimi naitwa Hanot Nyamweya. Ni mtu wa bodaboda sehemu ya Kisii County. Sasa mambo ya uchumi naona ameendelea kupanda juu kwa sababu mafuta yameongezeka. Huyu president wetu wenye tunachagua William Ruto alituambia kama sisi watu wa bodaboda anaweza kutusaidia kila kitu kitaanguka chini ili tupate pesa ya kutumia vitu fulani ya kusomesea hata watoto shuleni. Lakini kwa saa hii vile tunaona uchumi inaendelea kupanda juu kabisa, sasa tunashindwa kama sisi watu wa bodaboda tutafanyaje. Mafuta yameongezeka, kila kitu kimeongezeka. Sasa tuko kwa stage tu tunahangaika. Sasa tujue serikali yetu ya William Ruto sasa utatusaidiaje, kwa sababu ulituambia kama sisi watu wa bodaboda utaweza kutusaidia kwa njia fulani na fulani. Sasa utatusaidiaje jamani? Tunaona uchumi imepanda kama sisi masora. Sasa hatujui tunafanyaje.
Naam, asante sana. Pengine tuweze kupata vile mwingine kutoka eneo hili.
Okay, mimi kwa majina ni Dennis na ni mkaaji wa hapa Kisii. Na mimi kwa maoni yangu, kiongozi wetu ambaye ni William Samoei Ruto, rais wetu mpya, ambaye alipewa mamlaka wiki jana siku kama ya leo. Wacha tumpe muda. Kwa sababu hata bibi ukioa leo, huwezi tarajia ashike mimba kesho. Lazima ukaekae na yeye kidogo, hata miezi 2-3 ndio uone namna gani. So, kwa zile siku 100 ambazo rais wetu mpya aliahidi ya kwamba within 100 days mambo yataenda kukua mzuri. Unaona kama saa hii tumesikia ameenda Amerika kukutana na Joe Biden. Unajua Joe Biden ni wale ndio wamekalia pesa ya dunia. So maybe anaweza kuja na kagunia moja at least iwe inatukimu kimaisha katika hizi siku kidogo ambazo aliahidi ya kwamba mambo ya uchumi yataenda kukua mzuri. Kitu ya pili, mimi nataka kupongeza rais wetu kwa sababu ile mambo tulikuwa tunasikia eti kuna pesa ilikuwa inatolewa, watu wachache wanapewa makatel, inaenda kwa mafuta sijui kwa unga. Ulisikia kama hii mwezi wa 7 tuliambiwa eti unga itafika 100. Tulikuwa tunatafuta hiyo unga ya 100 hakuna, lakini tukasikia eti bilioni 7 zimefanya nini? Zimeenda. Kwa mafuta unasikia bilioni 9 zimefanya nini? Zimeenda. Hizo pesa wacha zirudi treasury. Na tena sijui hii wakati mtu anatoka uongozini sijui anapomoa nyumba yote. Sasa hii nyumba hata ukiingia kwa nyumba mpya, hata ukikodisha nyumba, unapata vioo dirisha visimefunjwa. Lazima uanze kupaka rangi, uweke tiles, upange nyumba yako mzuri. Hata vitu unapata mtu mwenye alikuwa amekalia viti amefunja. Wale watu ambao walikuwa kwa government walifanya vitu zingine ambazo si mzuri. So tunaombea rais ambaye amepata hii mamlaka mpya, washirikiane na viongozi wengine, wabunge, magavana, wapange nchi. Tusianze tena kuendelea na ile sisi ni Kenya Kwanza, sisi sijui ni Azimio. Hizo vitu zitoke. Na watu wasikae kona nyingine wakicheka kama ile tumbiri ambayo inakaa kwa mtu mwingine ikichekelea tumbiri yenye iko kwa mtu mwingine. Wacha tukuonea ile kitu unafanya nini? Sisi ni Wakenya, sisi wote ni Wakenya. Vijana, watu wote katika mitaa yote Kenya hii wachangamke. Watu wafanye kazi. Hakuna kiongozi mwenye atakuwekea chakula kwa meza. Na kiongozi wetu William Ruto, tunajua hakuna vitu zingine ambazo ataenda kubadilisha sana katika zile mikakati ambazo zilikuwa zimewekwa. Kama mambo ya wazee, hiyo cash transfer itakuwa mzuri. Mambo ya mbolea venye aliahidi, tulisikia jana Deputy President akisema eti mbolea iko njiani inakuja. Wacha tungoje within 100 days. Vitu ambazo pia tumpe muda achague hata wale mawaziri, pia tujue ni akina nani watapewa hizo wizara tofauti. So uongozi wake mimi nikiona, wakati mimi hata usiku niliota huyu mtu, uongozi yake akiendelea hivi mambo itaenda kukua mzuri. Hata Roma haikujengwa kwa siku moja. Wacha tukae na subira bana. Aliapishwa wiki jana.
Pengine unaisije uongozi katika bunge ambapo anaenda kuchagua majority na chief whip kutoka hizi pande mbili? Je, itaathiri utendakazi?
No, unajua biashara ya bunge ni tofauti. Sisi wale watu ambao tumechagua kutoka maeneo bunge yetu wameenda parliament, kazi ya sijui majority minority, hizo vitu mimi sijui. Hizo vitu zinasaidia wao huko bungeni. Wengine maybe wanataka watembelee gari, wapewe askari, wachungwe mzuri, wanapata allowance. But sasa hao watu wenye tulichagua kwenda bungeni, tunataka tuwaone. President alisema wakuje mashinani, at least mwezi isiishe wasikue wakionekana wapi kwa wananchi wale ambao tuliwachagua. Sababu wanaume watapata, hata jana nilisikia speaker akisema eti watapewa sijui mortgage sijui nini. Hizi vitu zinaenda kuwanufaisha. Ndio kiongozi sisi tumempea mamlaka atutawale ama aturepresent huko, lakini pia asiende kujinufaisha mwenyewe. Pia sisi wananchi wa kawaida tunataka tusikie hiyo impact, na mambo ya hii ya NGCDF pia irudi. Unajua sisi kama watu hapa chini, mjumbe ndiye anakuanga na hiyo pesa, tunaenda huko tuna apply pasari, tunaenda huko mashule zinajengwa, mabarabara huko mashinani, na zinakuanga na hiyo effect yenye inakuja kwetu wakati mjumbe ako na kiti fulani ana manage. Sio eti kitu yote iko kwa national government.
Naam, asante sana. Pengine tuweze kupata vile mzee mwingine kutoka eneo hili.
Asante. Kwa majina mimi naitwa George Visarara. Nashukuru kwanza, nataka niseme asante kwanza kwa kumpongeza rais wetu mpya ambaye ni William Samoei Ruto. Na pia ningependa kusema kwamba kuna ahadi nyingi kulingana na manifesto yake ni nyingi. Kwanza alisema maisha yetu itarudi chini. Kwanza akasema kwamba atachari mwananchi wa kawaida hasara ambaye ni sisi bodaboda, na akasema mama mboga. Lakini ukiangalia kugusa mafuta ni kama umegusa roho ya huyo kijana wa bodaboda na huyo mama mboga. Saa hii unga bado iko juu 220. Ukiangalia saa hii mafuta iko 188 cents. Hivyo ni kumaanisha kwamba bodaboda hachachaliwa, mama mboga hachachaliwa. Na ukiangalia mborea tuliahidiwa kwamba itarudi. Sasa ukirudisha mborea chini, mafuta ya mboga iko juu, sabuni iko juu, chakula iko juu. Sasa tutafaidika nini? Angalia, tumepepa bodaboda, tumepepa loans, tunalipa. At the end of the day unafanya kazi hakuna. Saa hii hakuna mtu anapanda bodaboda. Wamama anatembea kwa miguu. Maana maisha yako juu, gharama iko juu. Nasema afadhali siku zile saa kwanza saa 2013 kuliko saa hii. Ahadi zile zote tuliahidiwa ni bure, simeenda. Ni kama angerudisha mafuta kwanza chini, maisha ingekuwa vizuri. Saa hii kama tungekuwa na 100 lita shilingi 100 tungeishi vizuri. Hoteli ningekula. Saa hii sikuli hoteli, sichakunywa chai mpaka saa hii. Kwa nyumba yangu watoto wanalala. Shule inafunguliwa next week. Sina pesa ya kuchukua shule. Loan inataka pesa. Hii maisha ya hii serikali.
Bibi wanatoroka.
Ameenda Amerika. Umesikia wabunge saa hii wanataka grant ya magari, nyumba, pesa ya kutembea mileage. Na mwananchi ambaye alipokuwa hapa anasema nitasaidia mwananchi, nitarudisha maisha yake chini. Lakini saa hii maisha yetu ni magumu kuliko miaka ya nyuma. Yaani tunatamani miaka ya nyuma kuliko huu mwaka. Kwa hivyo mimi nasema rais akitoka Amerika atengeneze uhusiano na nchi za nje, na pia atengeneze uhusiano na nchi yetu ya Kenya. Aunganishe wa Kenya, alete wa Kenya pamoja. Ikiwa mborea itarudi chini, unga irudi chini, mafuta irudi chini, tutampa kidore. Lakini kama bado maisha ni haya 100 days, alituambia ile ya kwanza alisema kwamba nikiingia ofisi hivi unga iko chini, lakini sasa hii unga iko juu. Sukari sasa hii imeenda. Mimi kwanza niko na kioski. Sukari ni 6,700 kwa bagi ya 50 kg. Mafuta ya mboga 20 liters 5,400. Sabuni ndume ambayo iko na miti 10 shilingi 1,750. Kutoka 700 tutaenda wapi? Hii sio Kenya ile ambayo tulikuwa tunatarajia, na hii sio ile serikali tulikuwa tunatarajia ya kuchari mwananchi wa kawaida kama mama mboga na bodaboda. Okay, nimesikia wengine wakisema tumpatie muda. Yeye mwenyewe hakutuambia tumpatie muda. Alisema akiingia ofisi hivi mambo iko mazuri. Mungu abariki Kenya, Mungu asaidie Kenya, aunganishe wa Kenya. Na mambo hii ya wabunge, nimesikia mambo ya wabunge kwamba minority, majority, chief whip na hiyo mambo mengine. Acha nikwambie, kama Kenya hatuwezi kuwa na balance ya uongozi ya parliament, speaker Kenya Kwanza, majority hiyo Kenya Kwanza, kila kitu Kenya Kwanza, Kenya tutalia sana, tutarudi ile miaka ya Moi ambao tulikuwa na chama kimoja, na hiyo sio vizuri. Mungu abariki Kenya.
Naam, asante sana. Pengine tupate maoni kutoka kwa kijana mmoja hapa.
Hello, I'm addressing, okay, I have to talk English. My name is Michael from Kisii. I'm addressing people from Kisii and I'm representing Vijana youths. So what I want to say about this our government is that what they promised us. Please, Mr. President, if you are looking at me and I'm looking at you from where you are, wherever you are in America, wherever, tafadhali try to minimize our situation. Fuel is up. So instead mi hata kama vile niko hivi, mafuta iko juu, unga iko juu, nini iko juu. Sasa mimi si tutakula aje? Si ni maasela, si ni vijana, hatuwezi enda kuiba, na si tuna government inafaa kutushughulikia. Please, I'm addressing you in polite notice or in a peaceful manner. Please, Mr. President, jaribu kuangalia mwananchi wa kawaida. Juu ulisema wewe ni unajali maasla. Maasla ni mama mboga, mimi mwenyewe ni asla, watu wa mjengo wote bado ni maasla. Tafadhali jaribu kutuona ile vitu ulituahidi, jaribu kuzirudisha chini. Sisi tunakufa, sisi sio kama nyinyi hapo mnalipwa billions of money. Mimi hata kupata shilingi 200-300 kwa siku ni tabu.
taabu tupu. Sasa tujinyonge ama tufanye? Nyinyi mnakula vizuri maze.
Naam, asante sana. Pengine tuweze kupata mkazi wa mwisho kabisa katika eneo hili.
Sawa, Mheshimiwa Rais, mimi naitwa Duke Mecho kutoka Kisii. Na ningependa kuongelea hali ya maisha. Maisha imekuwa ngumu, ulituahidi kwa siku 100 maisha itarudi chini. Saizi imefika siku ya 3. Siku ya sita leo mafuta imeenda 180. So hizo siku 100 ama miaka 5 ikisha mafuta itakuwa imefika ngapi? Jana nimeenda kwa nyumba nikapata bibi yangu amepanga vitu anataka kutoroka. Kwa ajili ya kupeleka chakula kwa nyumba. Watoto wangu wanalala njaa. Shule ndio hizi zinafunguliwa next week, tutatoa fee wapi tulipe na mafuta iko juu? Tutatoa pesa wapi tulipe na maisha, hali ya maisha imekuwa ngumu. Mheshimiwa Rais, naomba tuzushie maisha, turudi kwa zile enzi za Kibaki venye ulisema. Wakati wa Kibaki mafuta ilikuwa 80. Maisha ilikuwa rahisi. So saizi maisha mafuta imefika 180. Ikifika miaka 5 kutoka saizi 2027 maisha itakuwa wapi? Mabibi zetu wametoroka, maisha imekuwa ngumu. Tunaomba turahisishie maisha iendelee. Asante.
Na pengine tuweze kupata maoni kutoka kwa mtu wa mwisho kabisa.
Kwa majina naitwa Dennis Moseti kutoka hapa Kisii. Pia mimi mwendeshaji boda. Pia mimi niko na stress ya mafuta. Hii mafuta venye tunaendelea kuchangia vipi si sawa. Venye tunafanya kazi yetu hapa, hiyo mafuta bana ushushwe bana.
Naam, asante sana. Thank you very much. As you can get it from the people who are right here in Kisii County, is that majority of them are just complaining of fuel prices. Others are complaining of high living standards that are in the country at the moment. And most of them are very, very, very much bitter of this government, that is Kenya Kwanza government. I don't know if something that will be done. And most of them are saying that the cost of living has been high since the inauguration of President William Ruto. And most of them are asking whether if the fuel prices are high, will the fertilizers go low? Will they eat the fertilizers? Or how will they live? Because some are complaining their wives are running away from their families. Others are complaining of these high living standards. People have started or have stopped using public means of transport in the short distances. They have decided to walk on foot. And that's the situation from this side of Kisii. I don't have much to say. What we just say now is that people are just expecting if the president will be back from England where he is, maybe he will do something to rescue them out of this bondage